Twin
Humanities,
Free
Adventure,
James
James
Carter.
Sony tonight then. Excited?
Yes.
Were you excited?
It was weird, wasn't it?
I was excited beforehand, yeah.
I thought it was a strange opening. I thought Sean Layden looked nervous. Gustavo
Hang on.
What?
Hang on. The stings that came between each of the games were kind of set up in the beginning, and they are a game that Sony didn't actually tell you it was, but I was really excited by the little doodly-doos between each game, which were all from Dreams, and there was a nice intro at the beginning.
I got that bit later on.
Nice doodly-doos.
Okay. We'll discuss it later on. I apologise. I've ruined the show.
No. It's all right.
The flow's gone. Shit, start again.
I've ruined it.
I wondered with the dream stuff as to whether kind of the stings were just sort of little. Oh look how fun this is. Look how creative it is. And I think they delved into that on the PlayStation show a bit deeper afterwards. But at the time, I remember thinking, are they going to show us any of this? And they didn't.
They didn't. Holly from PlayStation Access put out some really good vids later on the Access channel. There were like 3 like really in-depth ones that may very well have sold me on it because they were like really interesting. But I think it needed the time to show. I don't know how much of that game you could get out of there in 5 minutes.
Yeah, I mean it's cool that you can create the stuff that was in between each of the games in the Sony show. It's cool you can create that, but it doesn't really then tell you what it is as a game, more than as a kind of animation tool.
Although we've seen it a couple of times at this point, so
yeah, but I think there's a portion of the audience that are only tuning in for the presentation, and they may still not quite have a grasp of what it is, and I understand that there's a lot that it can do, and the deeper dive that was had with Hollywood probably suited it greatly, but some sort of summary of that or an update of kind of what it's going to be, something concise, and we're going to be showing exactly what you can do on the PlayStation show afterwards, but something that was like a bit of a bullet to show, because in the press it has said that it's been restarted a number of times, and they've had to really think through as to what it is or what it can do.
I think Media Molecule spent all the time making the tools, haven't they? And work on the basis that the tools are the game, so they need to get them right, and then they can work out how to kind of package it and present it to people, which makes a lot of sense.
I mean, in this regard, it was quite strange. I got more of a feel afterwards on Jeff's E3 show for Finn's Knights and Bikes than I did from kind of knowing what Dreams is now.
I mean, I think you're right. I think whether it's at the beginning or somewhere in the middle, Sean could have said, "Hey, all this stuff in between is Dreams." Here's watch the after show, and we'll show you how this stuff was made. Because I think that would be really cool.
We're really proud of what the game has turned into, and we're excited to see what your creativity brings to us.
Well, here was the missed opportunity. So I watched a bit of the show afterwards while they kind of stopped streaming, and apparently there was going to be a 20-minute music show using those characters done live.
Right. All right.
But they didn't say anything. And again, it's another missed opportunity to shout about it. Like, stay on for another... And I don't think they put it up live, I think. I think that's probably why they didn't talk about it. But, yeah, it was mentioned on the stream that they're doing a music show using these characters. They're going to do it all live. Come along later and enjoy it. It's like, oh, that's kind of weird. They should have said that. That would have been something fun to watch. I know,
but it also ties
to the
into
Ravi Drums level, but still.
But it also ties into some of the kind of creativity that we saw from Sony a few years ago, when you got the big orchestra of starting up God of War, and that was exciting. That was one of those where it's like, we've got a show on our hands.
The woman going B-O-R.
We just thought it
great
was,
and weird.
It was really cool. But
possibly not the first time we're going to say missed opportunity about the Sony show this evening.
What did you think of the place they started in, the actual arena, the church look? Very standing room only, wasn't it?
Yeah, it looked cramped and apparently was very hot and not terribly great place to show a game off in for the people who were there. Because I kind of assumed, this is kind of a bit weird and a bit kind of odd for watching it at home, but maybe for the people there it's really cool, and maybe that's, worth the kind of trade-off. Although Sony said they were trying to do the opposite, and I'm not sure that worked. But
yeah, it was a strange one. Was it Gustavo
Santore? Yeah,
Santore. Yeah.
I mean, with regards to the venue, I didn't quite click that. I think they were dressing it in the same way as the Last of Us 2 sort of bookends were. But I heard two things from inside the venue, because I was baffled watching it when it went into the interlude for a start.
Yeah.
But also, the people that were in there didn't particularly mind the moving between rooms, and they all thought it was fun. But from the same source, they were saying that everybody talked all the way through his performance, and when they went into the next room and Sean Layden sort of came out, then they were still talking amongst themselves.
Journo shits.
Shite.
Journo shits.
Absolute shite.
Well, playing Keanu Reeves, Al Pacino, Charlize Theron again, it kind of sounded like the reason they were talking was because no one had explained to them what the hell was going on, why the heck they didn't have seats, why there was a stampede to get the few rows of pews at the front when they went in, and why they were then being frog marched to the next arena. So, in all honesty, given the length of time they were in there, I can imagine a conversation about what the bleeding hell's going on, why is this happening, lasting all of that time.
Because it started.
I think Sony, if they were going to do this, need to. I mean, as a viewer, and apparently on behalf of several people, I've heard talk on podcasts and videos and stuff about being there. It was just a case of we didn't know what was going on, and not in that kind of this could be surprising. More in a just give us a heads up. Like say to people, you're going to be here for 5-10 minutes, then we're going to move you. Ask for quiet if you need to at the beginning before the stream goes live or whatever,
I remembered when it did go into that intermission, I just saw in our sort of group chat and elsewhere on Twitter, it was just people going, "Hey!"
Yeah.
It was very strange.
And I actually thought one thing was happening. It turned out something completely other was happening. I thought they said we're going to have a deep look at 4 key games, and I thought, oh cool, they're going to have a different venue for each one.
Oh right, okay.
I had that impression, but I thought
I thought it was going to be a different venue for each one, and I thought if they were going to do that, split your live audience, in-person audience into 4, take them to each of the 4 venues you've got, and they can see what's happening in the other venues from where they are, but they can be part of the one of the 4, things that's going on. That might have been a way to do it without literally getting people to walk from one place to the other, while we see the people who did last year's pre-show do an intermission show that didn't seem terribly snappy or slick. In the way that a pre-show doesn't necessarily have to be. It can just be about enthusiasm and, hey, we're really excited to have this, but it doesn't need to flow in the way that a regular show does. And it was weird. But
Did they do a pre-show this year?
No.
Nope. Sat there for an hour watching a bit of music.
This is one of those things where I think that in the past Sony have really gotten it right, because there was lots of really quirky and unusual stuff that might not ordinarily get seen or get an audience, and there's plenty of that still floating around beyond the big shows and stuff.
For sure, yeah.
It's just
last year I thought it worked well in the sense that there was something different between Microsoft did last year what they did this year, which was it was like 40 games last year or whatever. 40 games, here we go, bang, bang, bang. And Sony said, all right, some of these we're not going to be able to. We don't want to have them all in one show, so let's cherry pick the ones we want in the main show, and then the others can be given a spotlight beforehand when people are just waiting for it to start. The stuff that's a bit more quirky or needs talking around rather than just showing and moving on. Both of those approaches are distinct and I think have their merits. And I think that worked last year for Sony. I really enjoyed that, and the fact that like a lot of their VR stuff, their PlayLink stuff was pre-show, and that made sense. You know, they got different people on to talk about it. They had footage they could show, they could discuss, kind of explain the stuff that needed explaining without needing to worry about it not quite working in a big show. So.
I mean, on their side, they've got Harley Bennett, who's one of the most enthusiastic, creative, curious people in the industry. And why, I think with her doing the lead into one of these shows, she always asks the right questions. She's always like super, super vibrant. And it just sort of simmers that crackle of electricity before, you know, the main show kicks in. And again, they've done it right before with this. Yeah. You've got sort of a template that's really good and jettisoned.
Yeah, but that's the thing, that the idea, what I thought they were jettisoning it for, seemed interesting, and the actuality of what they were jettisoning it for seemed clumsy, almost, dare I say, like a missed opportunity. It's just weird.
I can see what they were trying to do.
Yes,
like, you can see they were trying to do something a bit different, and I think when Sean at the beginning said, you know, we want to let the games sort of lead the way on what we want to show, this is the stuff we want to show this year, this is how we're going to show it, we're going to let the games do it. And just to disagree with the point you made about 10 minutes ago, I actually, CJ, I thought Sean Lady came off really well this year. I think he's getting smoother, he's getting more natural. I don't think he's not reading from an auto cue, he's just talking. And I actually prefer that style. I think that's kind of what, I think we maybe hit on two sides of the coin on that one. Because I actually was quite enjoying Sean Layden this year. He came across as quite genuine, I thought. He wasn't kind of just rabbiting words, he was just talking to the audience, and I liked it. I liked Sean this year. I think he's getting better and better. Whereas I find Big Phil's getting a bit more of a robot.
So,
Sorry.
I quite like
Division 2.
I'll try and bridge the gap. I quite like Sean's presentation style. He does come across as relaxed, and he's kind of getting into it, and you know, Sony have got away from the years when they literally put up graphs and pie charts and stuff, and that's really good. They've worked that stuff out. There was some really awkward like church jokes at the beginning of this that I didn't think worked one bit, and with Sean Layden, there seems to be that risk where he clearly has a lot of freedom to say what he wants because he's the guy in charge of this show, as far as I can tell. And most of the time he gets it right, but occasionally he'll just say something and turn with a big grin in his face, and I'll think, you think that's way funnier than I do, and apparently anyone else in the room does. And it just seems really weird, and I don't know whether that's just a facet of you need someone to do a pass at what you're going to say and just say, nah, you know what,
first.
Just maybe drop this one. You know, the way a comedian would, they would have the opportunity to go and try a joke out, and if it falls flat, get rid of it. And I like the fact that he doesn't, and some of them do fall flat, but yeah, there was stuff like that. There was just like, that seems like it's not even just I'm not finding it funny, it seems a little bit kind of tone deaf almost. But yeah, Sean, I think, did a good job. I'm not sure I agree that we got a deep look at key games, which I think was the phrase he used.
No,
I think we got a surface look at key games. I was kind of expecting, you know, not EA levels of we're going to get people out to sit and talk about a game that you can't see any of, or, you know, have no context for, but I thought we were going to get like multifaceted look at the games, like maybe good 15 minutes of here's some information about them. I'm not sure I agree we got a deep look. I think we got a focus on 4 games, but it was...
We got a better look. I don't know, I feel like 15 minutes each game would have been a mistake. I don't know, I feel like I would have fallen asleep.
Yeah, maybe.
For me,
but
15 minutes of fucking Spider-Man, are you serious?
Yeah, but when they said they were taking a deep dive into 4 games, that to me I thought was going to be more of a focus, and I probably said it in the previous show, but I think back to when Nintendo first showed off Splatoon, and it was concise. It showed you the mechanics. It went in a little bit deeper with the world. You saw the developers, and it was one of those where people came away and went, oh, okay. And I think if we're looking at E3 deep dives, like Nintendo this year, were like, have you got a cuppa? Have you got a have you been to the toilet? We're going to be a while. Do you like Smash Bros? Yeah. Have you been to the toilet? Do you need to go again? I'm not. Right. We'll start.
Yeah,
but
I'm
did
not
become,
sure
and before we get there, I did find that quite boring, but we'll discuss that tomorrow.
I'm not sure I necessarily needed 15 minutes on each game, but I didn't necessarily just expect a trailer that showed CG and gameplay for each one. I expected, if they're saying a focus look or a deep dive or a deep look, which were all phrases that were kind of bandied about this beforehand, I expected to come away feeling like I'd seen something extra or a different angle on each one or a different way of presenting it that told me something more about it. And I guess we got that with Last of Us Part 2 in terms of setting it in the same place and having the musical intro, but I'm not entirely sure it worked the way that they hoped it would, for me at least.
I mean, I'm looking from the outside in with this, but for me it was like beautiful bookends on violence without context. I just reeled back at the middle bit.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't really know the world too well of the first one. I didn't click with it and sort of set it down. But I'll put this to Paddy. Because you're the super fan. What do you think?
Completely disagree. Sorry, I thought the violence
fine.
had context, and I understood what was going on. It didn't feel like it was just here's a horrible, nasty scene. It was desperate. It was survival. It was almost, dare I say the word, real to me almost a bit, because I've been through The Last of Us, and it hit me really personally. It hit me quite seriously, like that games don't tend to do that anymore. And it just kind of, I felt the feeling I got from there was that sense of desperation, of that making every last bullet count, every last move you do count. No, I thought it worked. I thought by bookending the sort of the nice church barn dance almost scenes on the other side of it, I thought it really sort of actually gave the middle bit more meaning, sort of showing that she's not just a nice girl hanging around being awkward. They should be terrified of her. And there is stuff that people don't know that's going on under the surface of people. I really I wouldn't say enjoyed it, but I appreciated it. Mm-hmm. I think it was fabulously animated. It's The Last of Us 2, by the way. We haven't said that out loud yet.
Last of Us Part 2, yeah.
Part 2. We haven't actually said those words out loud. I was trying to find a way to cut them in. I don't know if anyone noticed, when they were fighting around the random goons, they were shouting each other's names at each other. Someone shouted very clearly, "Ethan!" as someone got shot. It's like, are they not just random goons? They're actually giving them names.
I've not read up on it, but I have seen a couple of suggestions that Naughty Dog have some new tech that they've been trying out where, it is kind of dynamic in terms of every enemy is named and will be that will be reflected in that kind of stuff.
That's really cool.
Yeah, that bit did make me catch my breath a little bit. Like, what? Huh? That's a person. Yeah. That's a real. That's not just a meat boy. That's a real person. And I thought the actual the gameplay part of it, I was fucking edge of my seat the whole time. I really enjoyed how smooth everything looked. The part where she grabbed a bottle and she was running past the chest high wall for cover, and just grabbing it without stopping and throwing it immediately. Like, I thought that was smooth as fuck. And Laura did said the same thing when we watched it the next day. She went, "Oh, that was good." As that happened, I thought all the movements with the dodging and the moving and the kind of nipping between the displays and the shots at the end, the sort of flipping between those was just really, really good. Everything had like a weight to it. It had like a consequence almost, I guess. And it really was that kind of shootout that's gone a bit wrong, but you can pop back into stealth, if you can get around and get away. I think some of the problem the last game had was once it was on, it was on. You couldn't, once you'd pissed off a bunch of dudes, it was then very, very, very hard to give them the slip. They knew where you were. It was just go, go, go. Whereas this seemed to take a much more shoot out, and then it all calmed down a bit, and they lost her, and they kind of went back into patrol mode. Sort of like, I suppose, like a Metal Gear-ish sort of thing, where if you can give them the slip for long enough, they'll lose you, and they'll go into like search mode, and you've got to sneak around behind them and sort of try and get the upper hand again. As a stealth person, I really enjoyed that bit. It looks like more of The Last of Us in a really good way. And I know a lot of people don't quite gel with that game the same way that most of the internet does. I seem to encounter every single one of them on Twitter, which is great. I'm glad you've all found me.
You've invited two of them onto a podcast with you. So,
Well, I wouldn't say invited.
Suffered 2 of them on a podcast with you.
I've been suffered.
I mean,
I am looking forward
I'm
to seeing
happy.
Ellie become the Tomb Raider. I am enjoying that.
But you've clicked into something sort of here that was one of my sort of gripes. That and again, we spoke about this previously, but it looks like every other Sony game for me. You move between large grass, stealth, except this one was people and not Scandinavian frostmen, or robot dinosaurs.
Scandinavian Frostmen?
God of War, in it.
It's a very different game.
I mean, I said in the previous show, I think there is a Sony Cinematic Experience TM feel to their first-party games across the board. Even though, yes, if I saw a screenshot of God of War, I'd know it was God of War. If I saw a screenshot of Horizon, I'd know it was Horizon, Last of Us, etc. But since Uncharted became popular, I feel that in terms of the way that they blend their world design, level design, and narrative design together, there is just this common thread running through them where if you don't enjoy it like me, it stands out like a sore thumb the way they do that. That's just me. Clearly, I am in the minority.
So you just don't enjoy just really good blending of story, gameplay, and cutscenes.
I don't think it is good blending. I think it's linear gameplay until you get to a cutscene, and then that's where the story's delivered.
But beyond the bookends, which of this, which I thought were really beautiful, how is this any different to the blah that we saw with Shadow of the Tomb Raider?
Because the story's going to be better, and the gameplay looked good. It didn't look...
But story being better is subjective.
Okay, fair
How
enough.
did the gameplay look good
that was me
compared to
reaching.
Shadow of the Tomb Raider? Because it looked exactly the same to me.
Hard
Again,
disagree.
third person, hiding in grass, stabbing people.
No,
Just
hard
it's
disagree.
a young girl this time rather
Tomb Raider
than...
looks like slightly wonky Assassin's Creed Light. Having played Assassin's Creed 3 and playing with grapple hooks and all that shit there, I found Tomb Raider to be fine, but it isn't the same as The Last of Us, not by a long way. It has more of a weight to it. It has more of a pace. Tomb Raider just seems to be just do a grapple and shoot a man. And I know that from the outside can look the same, but to the outside, I mean, any game with a gun in it and you're shooting a bad guy looks much the same to my eyes. This is what I don't like about first-person shooters that much, is that a lot of them do just blend into one. If you showed me that year's COD and Battlefield, sometimes it's like, well, I don't know which is which. I wouldn't be able to tell what that was from the gun, because there's just a gun and some foreign people to shoot. And I've done that, and they're all dead now.
Maybe that's part of the distinction, because to me, Wolfenstein 2 versus a Doom versus, I mean, I haven't played a Call of Duty or a Battlefield in a while, but versus either of them versus a Destiny, those feel fundamentally distinct to me, and I have a preference for that.
Can there be something, I mean, sort of playing devil's advocate between, the two sides on this? Can there be something about the way that you come to the fore and you're invested? Like, Paddy was really taken with the Last of Us. He's coming to this, loving that world, loving that story and wanting more of it. If we're looking at Wolfenstein, I got a huge sense of who BJ Blazkowicz is. Like the story, it won me over with heart, and maybe the stuff that did with story overcomes the mechanics of the world, and like the shooting is kind of secondary to seeing sort of how he progresses, how he takes down the Nazis, the people that he meets, and I that to me drew me further and further through each of the games, and maybe that I mean, I always say with games that if something looks like your sort of thing, go for it, because even beyond reviews and anything else, you may be well be stepping to the fore with something either personal or something that really clicks with you, which may go beyond things that work and things that don't, and sort of bake a better cake than somebody else might experience on that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm quibbling over Last of Us, and I do want to discuss kind of the tone of it a little bit more, but I know I'm not going to play The Last of Us Part 2. And as tempting as it will be, because the hype when this game is released will be, I'm not saying it's going to be overblown, it will be at an incredibly high level, because so many people are so hungry for this game and will enjoy it an incredible amount. But I've been there and done this with 3 Uncharted games, The Last of Us. I have to draw a line and say Naughty Dog games are just not going to be for me. They're just
I think most recently
not.
as well, we've both been through that with God of War.
And
as
God
well.
of War, yeah. I just stopped playing that halfway through.
Sounds like my problem with Rockstar. Like, apart from Red Dead, I just
sure.
can't get into their games. I've tried, and I've really, really tried, and I just can't do it.
It's quite frustrating sometimes when you kind of want to, and there's that. I suppose the other side of what I mentioned is the bit where you're like, "Oh, I'm really up for this," and you get genned up by the reviews and what other people are saying and stuff, and then it's just something that doesn't propel you onwards in the same way as
I can see
other
why
people
it's
are
good,
having.
but it's behind this window that I can't get through.
Yeah.
Let me
you
through.
are pushing your nose up against.
And that way, oftentimes you're living sort of vicariously through other people. It's nice to hear their stories and what they got out of it, and even if it's not your experience personally, you can really enjoy how it affected them and what moved them, and that's the fun of conversations in this regard, because everything doesn't have to be for one person. And I think I think there can be this sort of giant syrup of because our friend Brad Galloway has experienced this, that if you don't like something that everybody likes, well, you're a shill, you're an idiot, it's
there's always some
interesting
alternate motive supposed to be behind your actions instead of that just being how you feel. People are always looking for why there must be a reason why you disagree with me, but not a reason why I disagree with you.
Look at Metacritic.
Bizarre. Yeah.
Well, I mean, Sony do pay me, so
Sure.
That's all right.
I mean, enjoying that nice PSVR you got just yesterday, of course.
Yeah, for a very, very good price.
Obviously, I am on Xbox's books.
Being paid with green. Ooh.
And I'm just a contrarian who dislikes everything that other people like. So,
hooray!
Video games.
On the tone, I guess just quickly I'll say I agree that the violence, when it's in context, is about survival, and these people are trying to kill Ellie, and she is dispatching them in desperate circumstances.
She's
in
trying
any
to
way
not
she
be
can.
dead.
Yeah, except there was a guy on his knees, clearly done, and she went at him in a way that didn't feel necessary to me at one point in that sequence.
Would you not be frustrated if you'd just been attacked by 12 people?
For sure.
I've never been in a situation where I've been attacked by 12 people and had the last one sat in front of me waiting for justice.
Absolutely.
Maybe.
That's the moment where I thought, oh, hang on. That seemed like a point at which a decision could be made not to do that. And it's out of context. In context in the game, that guy could be the guy she's going after. It could be that guy she knows is dangerous for some reason, or it could be any number of things we can...
Yeah, maybe there is the thing in games where she can just leave him.
Sure, absolutely. But the weird thing for me was, we're being told... So the opening scene is a church dance, or like a teenager's dance, or there are adults there, but it's a very cute kind of teenagers working out who they are kind of scene, where you've got a couple who've broken up and Ellie is friends with both of them and is kind of going between them, not really as kind of like trying to patch them up, but just trying to be friends with both of them. And then they dance, and the two of them end up kissing, and it goes to the notion that Ellie is terrifying. When someone is comforting her and being intimate with her, is directly then shown to be because she is like a killing machine, basically. She has grown up in and around people who have needed to train her to be a fighter, and she is like verging on unstoppable in terms of her abilities and skills, and the way that she can dispatch people, not in a superhero sense, but in a determination and in a skills and at the level of her ability sense. So the weird thing that I found was that it juxtaposed and compared things that I struggle to see why it did. So the notion of they're dancing in an embrace, and then it cuts to her holding an enemy and cutting his throat. Is that saying that to Ellie those are the same thing? Is that saying that to the player we should be thinking those are the same thing, or comparing those two things in some kind of way?
I don't think it's just a handy sort of cinematic cut that it's
absolutely, but
it's one sort of emotional bookend of here is closeness.
Yes, juxtaposed with
emotion. With kind of somebody being pressed against.
I think we're supposed to think that in the girl that Ellie's dancing with his mind, who calls her terrifying, and I kind of assume maybe that was terrifying because she is a confident and well-rounded and impressive person, but I think it's also supposed to be that she can do this stuff as well. So that comment by the girl that she's dancing with draws that comparison, and I think we're right in behind Ellie's head in a way that suggests we are seeing something to do with her perspective, and that her mind potentially, maybe not, maybe it won't run this way in the game, her mind went in that moment to this thing. That's the way I took it to be. Now, that might be an incorrect reading, but that's a reading that I feel this sequence allowed me to make. And
that's interesting.
That can't,
honestly, I quite like that.
That can't be that I am the only person who feels that way. It must be that Naughty Dog, because they are smart storytellers and they know how to evoke feelings and tone and themes. They must have known that comparison could be drawn or that thought could be had. And then to go back to that, the church at the end suggests to me that that's bookending. That's saying these things, one can be contained within the other, one can be compared, contrasted, or shown as similar to the other, and that's interesting, but also deeply uncomfortable in a way that, as with all of the scenes, particularly the last one with the person hanging upside down and the hammer to the arm and stuff from the previous cutscene we've seen from Last of Us, Naughty Dog know the reactions these scenes are going to have, and they're still choosing to show them. So whilst a lot of people feel that this is perfectly fine, I think equally well being deeply uncomfortable at the violence that's being shown, asking whether that violence is sensible or reasonable or decent to have, not in a game, but in a snapshot 5-minute sequence that's going to be shown around the world to millions of people, and by the way on Disney XD. Again, it invites questions of, should there be content warnings on this? Should it be contextualized more or better? And always, I'm a person who thinks Manhunt is a fantastic game, and I understand that shows me in a light that maybe isn't so flattering. The thing that makes me most uncomfortable with violence of this kind being shown on that stage is the whistling and cheering from the audience when stuff that is, I think, supposed to be shocking and has me catching my breath and sitting back and being taken aback. Maybe that's just people expressing the same emotion, but it sounds an awful lot like people enjoying it, and that makes me even more uncomfortable with what's being shown, because it is such an odd reaction to me.
I just wonder about, again, like there was a sort of strong juxtaposition with regards to the first of the bookends and then straight into the violence. If it had then of, say, just off the top of my head, like pulled back to Ellie, like all the brightness and the beautiful sort of aspect of that church dance, all of a sudden you're in a room and you see, like, say, a light flicker and smash, and she's on her own, and there are people looking at her, and she's sort of staying centered by looking at a picture of the other girl, and then you realise that she's on her own, that these people are coming for her, that it draws something else out in her, and maybe the thing that propels her on is the fact that she loves this other girl. If you'd have given me that without words, just given me that emotion to stir it up inside me, to go like, I want you to get back to her, I need you to get out, that to me would have still had me invested, rather than me kind of tearing up at the first bit and then just sneering and sinking back onto the couch.
Yeah, pulled out of it.
Just
cut
cut into like something that kind of repulsed me on the other side of it.
And I don't think there's right answers to this, because Paddy, obviously this worked for you and a lot of people immensely. But and again, maybe what we said earlier about investment in the game, and what CJ you were saying about whether someone's invested in either a sequel or just what you've seen of a game before launch, and maybe I don't feel invested in this because I didn't enjoy the first part, and maybe that then puts a barrier between me and what I'm seeing of this, that means that I'm almost not looking for the negative, but more bound to see the negatives.
Yeah, more
whereas if I was more invested,
I'd
I'd be in this from Ellie's perspective and kind of relating what I'm seeing and the possibilities of how that could build into a story that Paddy, yourself, and millions of people, let's be realistic about it, enjoyed about the first game. And you can imagine the possibilities that these sorts of sequences and the narrative scenes pose or present for what The Last of Us Part 2 could be. And that's really cool. And I love that, so many people are bowled over and looking forward to this.
What would you like to see from the sequel, Pad? Is there anything that like aspects of the world you want to see, or development of the characters, or is there anything that's sort of, I don't know, sort of in your heart that's driving you on to want to know more, or are you sort of waiting? It's going to
sound like a cop out, yeah, but no, I have no firm ideas what I want out of it. I just know they're gonna do what I want, because they tend to do what I want with this sort of thing. For me, Naughty Dog have got a pretty good track record. Like, I enjoyed most of the Uncharted. I didn't like 3 so much, but I thought 4 was much, much better. Like I said, I loved Last of Us. Just to pull back on something you said earlier, in the sort of the barn dance scenes, I didn't think Ellie came off as confident at all. She seemed like awkward, nervy, not sure in her feet teenager. Like when it kind of went to the flashback to the violence in the middle, that was her kind of having a moment of doubt on herself and worrying about her own, like, this is what I do. People, no one's looking at me. I'm not that kind of girl. I'm not the pretty dancing girl. I'm just here to do a job.
To me, the terrifying thing suggested that Ellie doesn't realise that she's attractive, that she's got that warmth to her, that is kind of terrifying.
That's what I mean.
That she's not got the
that she's an impressive person, even though she doesn't see it.
But yeah, no, I genuinely am. Excuse me. I just kind of, I don't want to see that much. It's kind of one of those games where I don't really care about trailers now. I just want to avoid that all and play it. I did that with God of War. I wasn't that interested in God of War initially, and those reviews started dropping, and it's like, no, this is essential, get it. Like, really? What? And they all were sort of saying the right sort of words that appealed to me, and I got that, and knowing almost nothing about it other than the initial premise of he's older, a different place, there's a boy, was able to be sort of boy.
I think that was one of those where we weren't really looking at it because we didn't think we were interested, and then all of a sudden, when there was this no, it is one of the best games of this generation. It was like, right, I'm not looking at it now because I want to experience it for myself.
Do you know what I blame?
Me.
Horizon Zero Shitting Dawn. That game did not hit for me, and it kind of soured me on the whole kind of, first party. I mean, we chatted about this as well, didn't we, CJ? That whole kind of, first party blockbuster that I was usually kind of quite into and have sort of dialed back on. I mean, 5 years ago, I might have been quite excited about Detroit Become Human. I'm obviously not now because I know, but I've seen it. I liked Heavy Rain, but everything past that was, I think, because Heavy Rain was the first one of his games I'd played, was the one kind of like, oh, this is interesting, this is different.
But since then, mixed reports around that game, and I think that some people will be repulsed by it, and some people will be entertained by it, and again, bring something else to the fore. I've seen opinions across the board, and I think that when you are sticking to one platform, you may well go for something because it is the big release on that platform, which might not necessarily be for you.
But by the numbers, Horizon should have been for me.
Yeah,
by the numbers, that was almost like a perfect Paddy
might
game.
Not have been.
Here's a robot dinosaur open world. Yeah, it's robot dinosaurs open world. There's stealth. You've got a cool ginger protagonist. Like, fucking there's cool clothes to wear. Like there's cool story
tick,
stuff going
tick,
on.
Tick.
Like yeah, this is great. And you put them all in a pot together, and it's like when you try and make a cake, but you've used the wrong things for the cake, and it comes out and it's just this lemony chocolate mush that doesn't cook right.
Is the basil in it and rosemary?
How dare you? How dare you
Minced
insult my
botanical
fabulous
and
rhubarb lemon and mint botanical pear cider? It's delicious and it's fancy.
Lemon and mint botanical pear cider. That's a random word generator. That really is.
Gorgeous. It's gorgeous. It's very tasty. It's very nice in the summer. Very cool on the throat. Made with Swedish spring water. Very tasty.
Speaking of very tasty, Sid Schumann and Ryan Clements.
Oh, sexy Sid. Let's not do that.
that went sideways quick.
James.
Yeah, so before we go on to the bits they talked about, because I've written a note here, then it got weird. Because this is where the show, I was with the show to this point, I was like, cool, okay, we're seeing something different. And then, okay, so everyone's moving. Really? Everyone's moving? And they need this 15-minute gap in between to get everyone to the next place, get them all sat down. And then, obviously, they didn't move again, which led this weird sort of pre-show in the middle of the show section.
I literally wrote pre-show in the main show. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it felt so weird. And I think
pre-show in the main show.
But by trying to do something so special and so different with The Last of Us 2, which is I can completely see what they were trying to do. I get it. Like, this is our big thing. Look what we've done. We've made this fabulous, purpose-built tent thing to show it off in, to kind of, immerse everybody. Yeah. Brilliant idea, great idea, but then to have to go away 15 minutes and kind of have all that sort of tension, all that hype, because I was pretty excited, by the end. I was like, oh wow, this looks really, really good. And then, there goes the hype out the window, and it's gone. And we're talking to Sid and Sean, who's sort of trying to fill time almost. They're sort of talking about things that are already out. It just felt like
if there was a technical problem at one point, and then just sort of Sony, what are you doing?
And then Blink guys off to one side going, "This ain't me, bro. This one's not me, bro."
Yeah, there's 5 doors which should have let people into the other room, and he's just like, "There's only one of them working." Or Blink guys "Don't count on that."
Oh God, why would they do this? And
during this section, there was actually a stream crash as well, which just made you think, is this a technical issue, or have they just decided this is going so badly that they're just going to shut the stream down for a minute?
I thought that was just me. I just refreshed my Steam and it came back. I thought that was only me.
Everyone had that. Everyone who was doing, watch the shows with us on sites like Giant Bomb or wherever, everyone had the same problem at different points, but the stream went down,
camera cuts to Blink guy. You're welcome.
My work here is done. Not yet. It's
the
not
problem was, some of the stuff they talked about in this middle bit was kind of interesting, but it felt like it should have been first.
Yeah,
on the pre-show.
So
get it out of the way in the pre-show.
Worldwide Studios are going gangbusters. They've got 13 first-party studios at Sony. New Game Plus for God of War, which one of us will be excited about, I've no doubt.
No, I finished it.
Yeah, that's why it's New Game Plus. You play
here's the thing. With that sort of game, I'm done. I've already lent it to a friend. I really, really liked it, but I kind of, with these sort of games now, I get to the post-game. I did this with Final Fantasy 15 as well.
And collectibles.
I just can't be bothered. No. I did what I wanted to. I got what I wanted. I came to a nice ending. That'll do. I don't want my last memory of the game to be fuck-arsing about doing the random mission thing at the end, which, let me tell you,
slinging
was
an
still
axe
fun.
At the wall 10 times in a row to try and get the exact angle you need when you bring it back.
Hunting down those fucking birds. Fucking birds. I don't want that to be my last memory. The same with Nier Automata. I could have gone back and I could have done all the 26 different endings, but it's do I want that to be the end of the game, or would I rather have the true ending E and be done with it?
The ending that you
no,
got
I want
that
that
ending.
ending.
The game when you pulled your chip.
Just the 5?
Huh?
How many endings did you do? Was it 5?
It was closer to 7 because I kind of accidented into 1 or 2 of them.
Yeah.
I'm not even going to say it because you're going to play it soon, aren't you? And there's some good shit in there.
Support.
Yeah, I'm going to play it as well when it comes out on Xbox One X.
Oh, you two both drive me crazy.
Next
you two
Tuesday.
Are both mental.
X-Bros.
Why am I here? Why am I here?
Pre-download.
Why am I here with the 2 most infuriating men in the world?
X-Bros.
Oh my god. Is there no one else? Could we get no one else? Is Crash Bandicoot available?
James, I'm going to go straight to you for Ghost of Tsushima.
You've missed loads, CJ.
Before we get to
stuff.
Ghosts of Tsushima, we've got Call of Duty Black Ops 3 has back in black maps from the previous games in the series now. They will be
also, that
available at
trailer-
Black Ops 4 at launch.
That
launch.
Bullets
They'll be at lunch.
don't work like that. It was going through
Black Ops
stone
3 is
and-
on PlayStation Plus when the
That
show
was a
was
nice
on.
get. They always do
Yeah,
a
that
nice
was neat.
PlayStation Plus get. Like, oh, wow, I added it to my list. I'm not going to play the fucking thing, but I added it on my list.
They then had a countdown to E3 sizzle reel, which is interesting in the middle of their show. Tetris Effect VR, Days Gone, coming out the same day as Anthem and Metro Exodus, and I think Crackdown 3 as well.
Fuck The Last of Us Light. Let's talk about Tetris Effect again.
Yeah.
Everyone apparently that has played it has said it's one of the best things on VR they've played ever.
Yeah.
And it's been in development for something like 6 years or something?
Yeah, I heard like 4+, yeah.
And now I can do it properly. I'm very excited.
And Mizuguchi says that their aim is to not only get the physical style of VR right, but also to get the emotional side right as well. So each level is going to make you feel something different. And
You'd seriously have to get Res Paddy because that new level in particular is just supposed to be
Area X, yeah.
spectacular.
I will when it is
in
£25.
I'm wondering if that's one of those
Very cheap.
that's kind of going to hold its value a little bit because it is the go-to VR experience.
Then I
really.
guess it's going to hold itself away from my front room for a while. Then
I think it'll be on. I think it'll be on sale at some point.
look, I am on thin ice with this already. All right, I'm pushing my luck. All right, I'm doing my best. I got the best deal I could possibly find. You know, I took you up on the one that had Resident Evil in it as well.
You're welcome, by the way.
Cheers. I'm selling a copy of The Misadventures of Tron Bon on eBay because that's not a cheap game. To fund this, like I am well aware of how much I am pushing my luck.
How much have you put it up for?
A lady never tells. I don't want to. I'm not going to publicise that. That's crass. I'm not doing that.
Well, you just sat here between
eBay.com/no.
Speaking of crass, back to the pre-show and the main show.
Hey,
Twin Mirror, Ghost Giant VR, and Beat Saber VR, which is a popular one because obviously that's been very successful on other VR platforms. Now coming to PlayStation VR. Yeah,
and I'm going to get it because I didn't think I'd like it, and then I watched a couple of videos like, oh fuck, no, this looks really
looks like
fun.
good fun. Yeah.
Apparently, it's very, very exhausting. It's hard work. It's basically exercise. Hard exercise. Ghost Giant I liked as well. Taking that sort of Moss look of you're like a god in the sky looking down at a small thing, and it kind of like, oh my god, you're real. Oh shit! Like I enjoyed the little creature being all kind of scared of you. I'll give that a go. That looked good. I'm interested in VR now.
And then, as if by magic, the stream crashed just as we started Destiny 2.
What a shame.
6 billion hours played, apparently, by one person who's just played the same hour over and over again. Year 2 content.
Heroic strike. Time and time again.
Year 2 content announced the Forsaken something or other, or just the Forsaken.
The Forsaken : Nathan Fillion is expensive.
Did you notice though they shot him with his own gun?
Yeah, apparently he is like proper dead and not coming back.
Yeah, and it's his gun they used to do it as well. That's his Ace of Spades. That's his own gun. And just because I like the handguns in Destiny, I recognised it.
But I know they've said that they want to go in a darker direction and being like edgy and stuff. He's really the only thing that kind of
lightened the game at all, yeah.
Just gave it a little bit of sort of colour. I mean,
made it memorable.
In the stuff that I played of Destiny 2, there was a lot of blah, just absolute blah. And then when it got to the level that sort of he was in, and it was just all of a sudden I kind of laughed a little bit, and I was like, yeah, all right. Yeah. And it was the first level that actually looked pretty beautiful as well.
It turns out that sadly to some people, dark and edgy is indistinguishable from blah. They just can't tell the difference, and so they give us blah thinking it's dark and edgy. DC, looking at you.
I noticed they got ahead of the pedantic people by shooting his ghost first, because otherwise, how many times have you died in Destiny, CJ? I know I've died several hundred times.
Few times, yeah.
Fine. You just go, I'm fine. I've just
Didn't somebody go to the devs like, why don't the bad guys shoot our ghost as well? And they were like,
They're invisible. They can't see them. They hide behind you the whole time. It's fine.
Yeah, and the dev said, "You'll find out in the game."
You'll find out in £30. I mean, the near future.
So Destiny 2 showed up on Sony's stage, on Sony's show, but not in the way I think I was expecting. Like I thought they'd show it off in more detail. Like, oh look, it's Destiny
brief,
2.
wasn't it?
It was like, here's a trailer. It's a trailer. Fine. I'm not interested in it anymore. I'm over it.
I think it's quite telling that got the same level of kind of fanfare as map packs for Call of Duty. It's a marketing deal for Sony, and it's just we're here to remind you PlayStation's the place that gets Destiny and Call of Duty stuff first and gets more of it or whatever, you know.
And there's still millions of people for who that is genuinely a thing. Like,
exactly,
that's
but
their
it doesn't,
thing, and that's
doesn't
fine.
need
Get
to
your
be on the
money.
big stage, yeah.
Get your money.
So, Ghost of Tsushima.
So hip.
Yeah.
Go for it, James. What do you think?
Samurai games are getting popular, aren't they?
Proper.
This looks far more kind of grounded. Seems an odd thing to say, but next to Sekiro, Shadows Die Twice, I think that's probably a fair...
It's similar.
Yeah, fair assessment. But, I mean, the landscape, the lighting...
Would you say it's a samurai?
looks just incredibly beautiful. Apparently, the mission we saw was a side mission. I've heard someone say that's kind of a side mission. Yeah, the woman that you kind of meet up with, and then you go in and take down the group, and then end up in a duel. Reminiscent of some of the missions in some of the side missions in Neo, where you are kind of hunting down an individual and taking them out, but without the over-the-top stuff in Neo that obviously some people will really like. But this seems, this seems almost Red Dead Samurai is kind of the way I would describe it, and obviously that means melee combat, dodge, block, parry, riposte mechanics all seem to be present and correct.
Would you say it was Red Dead Rurouni Kenshin?
I heard that with the mechanics that it seemed to be, because I think behind the scenes for the journos, they weren't allowed to play it, but they were looking at
watching
people
someone
that were
play it,
playing and trying to figure out what they were doing. And they were saying that a lot of the samurai mechanics that we saw were you would go into a stance and hold the button, and when you release the button, that's when you'd strike, which is pretty interesting way of doing it.
Yeah, it makes sense, because that's how you would use the stance. You'd be in that stance until you wanted to act. So that's kind of a way of doing that without. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, actually.
That's cool.
That tension of being, ready to strike and then releasing. Yeah, that makes sense. Stealth stuff, able to grapple and sort of climb and free run a little bit, which is which opens up possibilities, which is quite cool.
Laura had a note here. There is no way he could run on that roof that well in wooden shoes.
Yeah, no.
Bullshit.
They were
He would go
saying
click,
as
clap,
well
click,
that-
click, 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 on the floor.
They were saying as well that the guy that was standing outside that blew the horn, if you notice him earlier and you take him down, then the extra guys don't turn up, basically, and the battle sort of plays out differently. So a lot of the way that you sort of assess the level or assess the surroundings very much plays into what can happen afterwards, which is curious.
Yeah, definitely. There also seem to be like takedowns that are synchronized with AI companions if you're playing alongside an NPC. There was definitely a takedown where the woman you were fighting alongside got involved as well, which opens up possibilities of kind of... I don't think you had any control over that AI companion, but obviously it seems like they're going to kind of play into it a bit as well. I couldn't quite tell that final takedown of the 4 guards where he hopped off the... I think where he hopped off the... a couple of the sequences looked like they could be scripted or they could be dynamic. Without the HUD there, it's a little difficult to tell whether it was button prompts or whether it was a bit more dynamic than that and, able to be that cinematic in a kind of free-form way, which would be really cool. So yeah, I definitely wrote a note saying how scripted are these sequences, how much variety is them there. I got a real MGS3 vibe to the kind of duel as well. Obviously in the kind of field with the waving sort of flowers and whatnot around
Leaves
you.
and stuff,
Yeah,
yeah.
In the same way that Metal Gear 3 has an every samurai movie ever vibe.
Yes. But in terms of the most likely touch point,
the one we like
for people watching it, in the same way that you get to the end of Bloodborne and you think, I've seen this fight before, or aspects of it at least. But yes, it's certainly calling from that stuff. Apparently, Kurosawa's been mentioned as a reference because, of course, I was listening to Giant Bomb earlier, and one of the Giant Bomb guys said, "Oh, are you thinking about doing a black and white mode?" And apparently it looked like that's a good idea, just came across the dev's face.
Yeah, I really like that idea. Fucking hell.
Shit, yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
That'd be cool. That'd be real. God, that'd be really cool.
And they said, I think there's going, not in the show, but subsequently I've heard, there's going to be in every localized version, the original Japanese language version will be in the game as well. So even though, like in the UK, we might not get, all the various different other languages, we will have a Japanese language version. Which, of course, play that with subtitles on and enjoy that for the authenticity.
I'm intrigued by if they do that black and white mode, because that would kind of really turn my head, and I like the Japanese language track. I thought it looked astonishing with the wind moving through the trees and the way that it was kicking up leaves, not just the sort of emergent stuff when you ran over them, but them spiraling in the breeze and stuff. But the actual game underneath it just left me cold. Apparently, from folks that have seen it, they're saying like it's they're super excited and it's one of the best things that's at E3, but nothing aside from admiring the technical ability, and I can fall into a world if it romances me, but it left me empty, honestly.
Oh, unexpected.
Yeah, I'm surprised to hear that. I think mainly because it left me with more questions than answers as to how it will play, and how it will work.
It was an interesting reveal, wasn't it? I mean, I was the same. I felt like the visuals were just stunning. The wind was great. Props to his outfit. Yeah, that looked like the sort of shit that I would put together for LOL.
Shoulder cover cape.
And a bamboo cape.
Yeah.
A bamboo cape. And the coat and the flared... I know they're kind of traditional Japanese trousers, but I see them as flares. It's that's the kind of shit I'd put together for the lols. You've seen my Dark Souls characters. They look like that.
Seeing you running out in your MC Hammer pants and your flip-flops.
It me!
Hi, Jeremy.
Oof. The bit where they stop and he looks over the vista... and just sort of pans slowly across the whole thing with the fields of sort of cotton fields, and it looked empty, but kind of for a point, it looked like it was supposed to be empty, it was. It reminded me a bit of The Witcher, in a really good way. The horse was really good and kind of just galloping around. It's this is just The Witcher in another place, and that's totally okay with me, because that game's incredible. I thought visually the fights looked really good, dynamic and sort of. Not bouncy, I guess, but measured. It seemed to be quite an emphasis on watching your opponents and sort of parrying and shifting and movement. Laura liked the blood splatter a lot. She was like, "Oh, that was good blood," and the way that he wiped it off on his sleeve.
Yeah.
I'm into that. I did enjoy the climbies. I liked the bat vision, picking out the targets. Kind of think, right, these three guys are going to die in this order. The way I read that was I saw that as him picking out what order he would attack them in. So maybe if you fuck that up, the person at the back has a chance to get away, and you've screwed it up. So if you have to kind of prioritise which target you want to hit first. That's how I read it. I mean, I could be wrong, but that's what it looked like to me at the time, and I was quite up for that. I really liked stabbing the guy with the horn through the wall. Just something about that. Just lizard brain kicked in and went, yeah, lots of that, please. Ooh, that looked great. The one-on-one looked great. I really enjoyed the sort of the complex character stuff going on. It's there's the whole war going on with the Mongols, and people are sort of shifting their alliances, and motives might not be what they appear. And by the end of it, they seem to be kind of cool again after their fight, and I was into that, massively into it. I'm actually more looking forward to this now than No, I know it. Hang on.
You can do it. You can call it Shadows.
Shadows likewise. Senkiro.
ST2?
No. Destiny
But
2. What happened to Cade?
How does this... I mean, you've obviously got Sekiro, you've got
That's
Ghost
it.
of Tsushima, and you've got Neo 2, which was announced at this conference as well. How does this sort of... How do they all sort of stand out against each other? I can see that obviously From brings their own audience to Sekiro. Neo probably ties into that same audience and has already got an established audience after the first game was a really big success. Is this just appealing to those sort of Sony fans that are looking forward to the next system exclusive? Or
Well, it's Sucker Punch, which means I'm going to like it. Because Sucker Punch make games that I like. It's just that simple. I think it had its own identity compared to the other two. Like, I mean, Neo goes very heavy on the whole, here's a big demon, and it's really hard. For the record, still can't be arsed with Neo.
loved it.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. Yeah.
No, I just didn't it? Did not hit for me.
Now, clearly.
Ennui.
Stealth
Ennui and
takedown
misery.
synchronized with CG.
Load of bollocks. Again, because I'm at about an 8 out of 10 for Sekiro, so like, I mean, the fact that there's 3 of these games that are sort of quite similar in sort of tone, not tone, but the sort of same sort of backdrop.
Yeah.
At the same time, I don't think it's anyone's fault that they're all coming out at once. It's just this is how it rolls. Saying that, how many games with man shoots gun do we get coming out on a given year? 472. So I think we can live with 3 samurai games.
Sometimes you get Armageddon and Deep Impact at the same time. Just happens.
True, absolutely. But yeah, you get Bugs and A Bug's Life and Ants in the same year.
Sure.
Yeah, I think it looks different to the other two in a way that I think I appreciate a bit more. I don't think I'm that fussed about games being well hard or like super super hard. After burning out really hard on Dark Souls 3, like I found the challenge in that to be too much. I think that might have coloured my opinion of Neo because again, it seemed to be aiming for that. Oh, you've got to be good at your parries and your key pulses and your onmyos and your ninjuzus and all that stuff. Yeah,
but I'm shy at all that sort of stuff, and I kind of seem to do all right with a spear.
Yeah, but you'll spend 27 weeks in the first level.
This is very true. I do like to hunker down.
I like to get on with the damn game. I've got things to do.
You've got PSVR to play. Thank you very much.
I've got VR to play as soon as I've sold all my eBay stuff.
You don't live in the same reality as I do. Puts on headset.
Yeah, I'm going to look at sharks. I kind of think I appreciate this is going to be the not easier, I guess, but the easier to get into and the easier to sit down and just like absorb of those 3 games. Not that we even really should be comparing them because they're probably going to hit different sort of tones completely. But this one stood out to me as being, like we said earlier, a bit more simmy, I guess. And I like that sort of single stab kill to sort of open the thing up. I thought that was really, really cool, really tense. Again, sort of 2:30 in the morning going, when he did the stab, I was like, oh, that was cool. Oh, another one of them. Please do another one. Yeah, it stands out from the other 2 for me a bit more. Not that, like I say, Sekiro, fuck me, terrible name.
It's not really hard.
It's really hard.
It's an awesome name. It
It's a shit
literally
name.
means one-armed or separated wolf. It's like a wolf missing its other half. That's such a cool name.
Yeah, but one-armed wolf, I'd remember that, but that's just syllables.
You started
That's
this
another language.
podcast.
You can't just say syllables.
Before this podcast, you were just like
Bullshit.
rhubarb, lemon, and botanical pear cider. And yet, Sekiro just doesn't trip off the tongue.
That's another
But
language. You can't just say
the
it's
syllables are all in
syllables.
English. I can remember those. I can't remember Sequoia, Sekiro. There we
Sequoia,
go.
oh my word.
I can't
word.
remember it. It won't stay in my head.
This is like when I was a kid and my mum goes, "Oh, I really love that Celia Delian." And I was thinking, like, she sings and she bakes. That's the sort of star that I want.
But yeah, it stands out. And to be fair as well, this didn't look like the game we saw last year either. It looked, from what we saw last year, it had sort of more of a Tenchu sort of look to it. Like, it was only a short trailer, but it looked like you've been killed and you've come back as a vengeful ghost power man. Like, that's how that looked to me.
That sounds like Sony's version of You've Been Framed. To be fair, just much more sinister.
I think for me it depends how it plays. I think it looks incredible. It has a distinct visual style from the other two. I think all three, we're saying samurai games, I think all three have distinct visual styles which can work really well. I think all three will play differently as well, but I'm still not sure how this plays, because whilst stealth is absolutely my bag, if it is crouch on a rafter, tag 4 guys in order, press a button and execute happens, that's not going to interest me as much as the possibilities of being in a duel and having kind of stances and blocking and parrying and riposting where you need to not be really technical. I'm not necessarily talking about For Honor style dueling and that kind of thing.
You don't need to be the parry king. But
just something that really requires me to get into a frame of mind, a mindset when I play it. Whereas if the gameplay is something I can switch off from, that can be enjoyable to a certain extent because you can take in the visuals and just play through the game and enjoy the story or whatever. But I'd be interested to see what they do. Infamous is a series that I played the first one of and kind of fell away from just because there were aspects of it.
You're saying you didn't like being Electro Hitler?
Just there were aspects of it that I didn't quite gel with, but this is so different to anything that I've seen from Sucker Punch before. That interests me because, you know, the past few years we have seen Sony Studios really branch away from what they're known from, and okay, Horizon Zero Fucks didn't quite work to grab my interest, but yeah, that would...
or in our case, Horizon Zero Dawn. Traded.
But yeah, this left me wanting to see more, but it left me with a lot of question marks over how it plays.
What sort of comes to mind with me was with Infamous Second Son, my investment was in the world,
the city.
I kind of obviously it's the home of Pike Place. But it's having grown up listening to Mother Love Bone and Nirvana and Soundgarden, Seattle was almost it may well have been in my head as much of an imaginary place as like a Gotham or a Metropolis. It was just this place where amazing music happened, and I enjoyed running around in that world, and the fact that I was doing repetitive stuff and the story wasn't super brilliant took a backseat to the fact that I was enjoying running around in that world. And what I worry about is that there's a super lovely looking world here, and it romances me further thinking that there will be a black and white mode, and that they don't fill it with enough substance to kind of keep me engaged.
Here's a question: if there's a black and white mode, would you want flashes of colour for, say, blood spray and for when the swords clash or anything like that?
Absolutely.
Pure
I would
black and
like blood. I'd like blood. I think I'd enjoy that, but I could take or leave that. That would be either for me.
That would be the Frank Miller mode.
It would absolutely, yeah.
It's all right. I don't mind that.
Marvellous. As long as you're happy.
Where am I today? What's going on this fucking show?
But this is the point. This is the point. After sort of sitting back on the couch and kind of... This is the point where
A Metal Banana came out.
2 games were announced, which made me go, oh my god, I'm back. I'm in.
You've forgotten the Metal Banana.
There was a nice little sting here, with a banana playing guitar.
Yeah, and he was like... and he was a fun banana person with a big gob. I can't believe you're skipping over these valuable points, CJ. I'm very disappointed.
I was probably looking at my shoes or just after...
There's a show on!
What? It's just
you might have missed Andrew WK.
Every crappy little sting from a game they couldn't even be asked to talk about. It's just twiddle.
You weren't ready to die.
String.
You're not ready to die.
It's a bit of wool being played with by a cat.
Yeah,
That's
and
all
it
is.
It was silly.
But a banana and metal.
Can we at least agree that Control grabbed our attention?
Yes!
It was interesting. It's Lauren Cohen, isn't it? From Walking Dead, right?
It's
the main
know who
lady.
that is.
It's Remedy as the main studio. And
it looks super chuffing lovely.
Air
and
of Quantum
sounds
Break.
amazing.
I would say. I'd say of their games, it seems to be a kind of step on from Quantum Break as much as anything.
They're not going into like as obvious storytelling as Quantum Break was, or leaning into it as heavily, but they, especially the stuff that I heard this afternoon, that it is this sort of strange building where unusual things happen, and they're sort of celebrating the weird, the stuff, that the parts of the universe. They quoted the novel and obviously now film Annihilation, by saying that there are parts of the universe that the human mind can't comprehend, but if you push on with it, you may start figuring that sort of stuff out. And this giant building that's constantly shifting and moving, and they were saying that the gun that she's got is the equivalent of like an Excalibur, that only one person is allowed to use it, and that gun will change shape numerous times throughout the adventure, and in like really unusual and surprising ways as well. I am super up for this. This is one of my favourite things from E3. I'm just, please.
Yeah. I did like that pulsing gun. Like it was breathing or had a pulse. Gun shouldn't have a pulse.
It looked like there was, obviously it was a bit of a CG trailer, but it looked like there was some gameplay definitely blended in with that. My first reaction was maybe this is gravity-based powers in the way that Quantum Break was time-based powers. But
the stuff that I saw,
Gravity Days 3.
I saw this afternoon, like everything in the room can be used.
Yeah.
Like they got this one guy that sort of came out and attacked her, and she was picking up chairs from desks and throwing them across at them. And there was one room she walked into, and it was just a single room, but like a series of mirrors that seemed to be going back into the distance. And at the front of these mirrors, there was like a ghostly form that was like looking downwards, and I was like, oh. It just looks unpredictable, and it looks crazy, and I really like the main character. I like that sort of shape-shifting Excalibur weapon sort of thing. I'm just all over this. This is fantastic, and I'd take a black and white mode in this as well, because it looks a little bit...
I've heard that it's telekinetic abilities rather than gravity-based, although I did like the idea that it could be gravity-based, so you could change gravity in a location of the room or for a certain item or something. But telekinetic powers are going to have much a kind of similar thing. It's just going to be a more active set of abilities, which is cool. When you're talking about having a gun that can change shape and has a personality, I can't help but think of my big boner in what's it called? Shadow of the Damned.
Yeah.
I hope they managed to avoid that worked for that game, depending on your sense of humour, I guess. But I hope they managed to avoid that and make it something that fits in and is cool and doesn't seem kind of off. And by the sounds of it, they absolutely have. You know, building a mythology around the weapon, and the game taking place in a single building, but one that can shift and change and contains a whole like city or world within itself. Seems really cool. It's Remedy, and you know,
that just sounds like we couldn't be bothered to make a skybox.
It's Remedy, and so I guess for me, Alan Wake didn't quite hit the mark. Quantum Break I enjoyed, but clearly was a game that was supposed to be something else with the TV show stuff and everything. They always, I think, make interesting games even if they don't quite come off in the final product, and this one looks right up their alley. 505 Games Publishing, so completely separate from any platform holder, which is the first time since Max Payne 2 for them, I think. Just really cool. Looking forward to hearing more. 2019 for this one.
It's pretty soon.
Yeah, we should say that for Ghost of Tsushima and Last of Us Part 2, no date was given. I don't think we see either of them before late 2019, to be honest.
Nah, I agree. I agree. No, I enjoyed this as well. I really enjoyed this trailer. I thought for a moment, because they showed the metal banana, that this was initially made in Dreams. I thought, this Dreams is looking fucking brilliant. Jesus Christ. Not even a bit. That is not even a bit. I'm like, oh, that looks really good. It's not Dreams. This isn't Dreams. Yeah. This is definitely not Dreams. The gun's pulsing. Why is the gun pulsing?
I suppose the banana could have turned into the gun.
Yeah.
That's one of the Excalibur things that the human mind can't comprehend.
You show it to enemies and they go, and their brains stop working. They can't comprehend what they've seen. I kind of like the look of it. It looks good, but I've never really clicked with anything Remedy have ever done, and that worries me because as much as I want to like it, like I've tried Alan Wake and I got bored.
Not Max Payne.
Nah, mate, it doesn't work for me. I don't know what it is. It just doesn't click. And I like diving through the air in slow motion shooting bullets. That's
apparently
the thing I
not.
Enjoy.
Given that's one of the main games where that's a mechanic.
You'd think that, wouldn't you? Like, I've enjoyed other games that have had that mechanic.
Stranglehold?
It's been... Yeah, I like that. I liked it in Vanquish. You can do it a little bit in Warframe. You could do it in... Oh, fuck, what was the other one? Oh, there was something else as well. You can do it in Gungrave as well, which is a weird, obscure sort of 6 out of 10 that no one else likes that I love to pieces.
Speaking of which, are you going to get Gungrave VR?
Oh, fuck, no, that's a thing, isn't it? Oh, God, I'd forgotten about that.
Yeah.
Oh, I could have rated it off because it looked wank. Now I can't because it exists and I have to get... Oh, you wanker.
Whee!
Fuck you. Oh, damn
You're welcome.
So, while Paddy's diving into the depths of despair and adding another game to his VR shopping list...
Bullshit.
we move on to... I mean, pretty early on, this became apparent what it was, I think. But,
Rat Simulator.
Nice little cheeky PlayStation 1 in the intro as well.
I laughed my fucking head off very quietly because it was 3 a.m. I laughed my fucking head off at that PS1 because I was like, I know what they're doing.
Yeah. 25th of January 2019, and CJ, the second of two games you are really stoked about.
I am super crazy excited for this. I think the original is one of the best games of all time. When I first played it, I got it, and the lad in the flat upstairs got it, and I was going to wait until it got dark, and he was playing it straight away, and he got this thing whereby I've no idea how he did it, but he would just crouch down in front of the television and just play a game, just completely zone into it, like this sort of, Buddha-like mentality. Wouldn't sit in a chair, wouldn't crash back. He would crouch down in front of the TV, and when the shocks were kicking in, he was falling on the floor onto my ceiling. at which point I was getting like a broom handle and going like like boom, boom, boom. And I'd switch off to it. I'd be like, I'm going to wait till it gets dark. I was doing other stuff, and again I've just heard like on the ceiling. I thought the reimagining looks great. It looks frankly stunning. Day one for me. Probably the super highlight of this show. Every preview that's gone hands-on with the game has gone ballistic over it. Most folks going in just expecting crisper visuals over the familiar have had expectations turned inside out. Inside Raccoon City Police Station, it's pitch black. Switch out the torch and you can see nothing. Capcom appear to have messed with familiarity a little. The knife now does a great deal more. The police station has a toilet. Yeah, man. The liquor had been removed from the demo, and Capcom were upfront about that, stating they wanted players to experience it in the full release. One of the highlights of the previews was Michael Huber from Easy Allies, a horror and gore enthusiast, exclaiming, "Look at those intestines!" At the point where a zombie's face had been sliced open by a shutter door. It's like the face was split and the jaw was hanging off, and it was just like the shutter door went back up and the face was still connecting. It was like red spaghetti. But yeah,
I am similarly white fucking hot for this as well.
Woohoo!
I played Resi 2 when I was 11, maybe.
You played Resi 2 when you shouldn't have been playing Resi 2, you mean?
Yeah, I went round someone's house in my scout group. We had to make a rubber band.
Hello,
out of wood.
Sean Layden.
A Boy Scout, no less.
I was in Scouts, and we had to make a rubber band gun out of wood. So I ran this kid's house who had stuff to make it with, so we went around there and we did it. That took maybe 20 minutes, and then we played Resident Evil 2 for 4 hours. It was brilliant, and then he lent it to me, and that was the beginning of the end for me. God, what a fucking game! Like, and Laura still holds like Remake as her favourite one, because Laura's a massive Resi fan as well, and she was like, again, jaw on the floor, like, oh, cool, they're doing it. I really like they're doing the over-shoulder Resi 4 camera. They're basically doing Resident Evil 4 divided by 2. Do you see what I did there?
Yeah.
Do you see what I did? I'm quite proud of that.
Yeah,
the one thing I don't like, Leon's hair is the wrong colour. He was one of the only gingers that we've got. We've got him, we've got fucking boring old Aloy, and we've got Crash Bandicoot. That's all we've got.
Only in this game, because once he gets to Raccoon City, he realises, having been mocked mercilessly by everybody just going like, hey, that new cop's pretty good. Shame he's a ginger. He's like straight for the hair dye.
There's like 4 people left alive, and is that what's important?
Of course it is. That's the reason that he's trying to save Raccoon City. It's about nothing else but one policeman trying to get some fucking hair dye.
This is why I face prejudice on a daily basis. It's what it's like to be me. And you're all the zombies. It's a metaphor. Fuck you. Here's what I like about the Resident Evil 2 trailer that I didn't see anyone else pick up on, but I was incredibly excited. The Terminator-looking guy, who I've always called the Terminator, but they call him Mr. X, he has a hat now. Yay!
Hat tech.
He's the guy that turns up in the second playthrough when you're playing stuff. I'm wondering if they're gonna, in this giant remix, if they're gonna cut to Claire as part of the story and just have it as one long whole, or if they're going to finish it as Leon and then finish it as Claire with kind of the remix in there.
Well, I always play it. Which way did you play it around? Not to get too deep into this, but like I always used to play Leon A, Claire B, because I like Leon more.
Yeah.
But recently, the last few games last time I played it, I did Claire first and Leon second because I like Leon more. I kind of feel like I should finish the game as Leon.
Save the best for last.
Had that more sort of satisfactory ending of the character I like being the one that does the cool thing. Not that Claire isn't cool. It's just, Leon's a 10, Claire's an 8, and that's fine. But I've always done Leon A, Claire B every single time until only I think a couple of years ago when I was bunging through them again for just for jollies on the Vita. Downloaded them all there.
This is one of the first games that I can remember where, like that second disc, I just thought I was just going through it as a different character, and when you'd obviously got the randomization with the items, but when that lad dropped from the helicopter in the shell split up and he kind of boomed through the ceiling, I was like, oh my god.
What did you call him? Because I've always called him the Terminator.
I didn't really call him anything.
Has he got a real name? Because the official name I hear is Mr. X, and that's really shit.
Because he was in one of the films as well, and I actually punched the air one of the CG films. And I kind of punched the air when he turned up, and I was like, oh, yeah.
And now he's like He has a hat now. A really cool hat. It sucks that that's the thing I'm most excited about.
Maybe he's a ginger underneath it, and he's just like, if Leon's now chestnut and beautiful and has got hair game, I better just hide my shame.
No, if anything, it's hunting him down and being like, how dare you hide your true nature? I'll get you. The ginger police are coming. Through the ceiling, James, if we have to.
James,
hello.
Your opinion on this?
So I have played half of Resident Evil 4 and the demos for Resident Evil 2 and 5, and that's it.
James.
So,
and did this raise your pulse any, or were you curious at this, or did it not hit the mark?
I think the thing is, so this was clearly it was a good trailer, and clearly a massive deal for everyone who's got fond memories of Resident Evil 2, but I don't. So I know that playing this, it would be playing it for the first time through as the remake, which is absolutely fine, but I haven't done that with...
it would hurt you that you haven't played the PS1 one, wouldn't it? It would hurt you in the soul.
I'm just wondering how much it won't have the same impact if I haven't played the first one, but then people played the original and loved it, so hopefully the remake should have similar sort of feels, but it won't be as a remake, it would be as original. So I'm not sure, because I don't feel like I necessarily should go back to original Resident Evil 1, Resident Evil 2 and play through the series, just because there's still a certain amount of, as we were talking about with Beyond Good and Evil, a certain amount of they were games of their time, and how easy would they be to kind of enjoy for what they are.
I would probably argue that I think Resi 1 probably is a bit of a stretch to go back to, but I think Resi 2 and 3 hold up. I really do.
Yeah, I like the look of this, and I've constantly been tempted by Resident Evil 7, but I'm worried that maybe kind of the grime and the slightly more serious tone might not be my bag, whereas the kind of big cop science fiction like daftness,
B movie style of
the B movie. That's what I was
a bit. It's a bit more my thing, and even stuff like in the previews where he goes up to one of the monitors in the police station, and it's got like the PlayStation logo on the side of the monitor. I'd really like that sort of stuff, but I'm curious as to how that police station is going to play out with just the torch.
Just in case your opinion of me can't sink any lower for my very paltry efforts.
I love you.
I have seen all of the Resident Evil films, though. and I'm not talking the CG ones. I haven't seen any of the CG ones or animated ones, just the live-action ones.
You've only seen the wrong ones.
There's some good CG ones, I must admit. I've enjoyed them more than the live action ones.
Yeah, I've seen pretty much all of those films. Like Laura is a massive fan of those, like the Mila Jovovich ones. She really enjoys those.
Yeah, they're just daft, but I still stand by the first one as, at the time, probably the best video game adaptation. Not because it did a good job, as far as I know, of being a representation of the first game, but just because of its tone and the way it was just daft fun in a kind of B-movie style way, and therefore captured something of at least what the excitement about the game seems to capture, which is probably a travesty to say to anyone who's a fan of those games. But
I think I ordered that from the Region 1 import from Play USA.
Back in those days.
When that came out. Yeah.
Goodness me.
But yeah, I'm still not sure what to do, because like playing Resident Evil 7 in VR does still kind of interest me. I'm not entirely sure I'd be able to do it, but it does.
I'll let you know how it goes.
But I do kind of feel like I should go back at least to Resi 1 remake and then this remake. 4, I just ran out of steam with about halfway through, when there was some little guy in a tricorn hat, and the girl I was supposed to be looking after ran away and got sucked into a wall.
Sounds like a ginger.
I just kind of ran out of steam there, where I kind of lost track of what was happening and kind of missed the really tense atmosphere of the opening, where you're in amongst the villagers and stuff. And it all went a bit bananas, which makes me nervous, because I know most of the games kind of do go a bit off the deep end in terms of
how much is going on.
Yeah, what's going on, and all the kind of stuff behind, and the enemies
4,
you're
5,
facing.
and 6. 4, 5, and 6, I reckon you could probably get away with playing individually if you want to just play one of them. The stories don't seem to link in that much. They kind of exist as their own thing. Resi 5, for me and Laura, goes down as probably one of, if not our favourite Resident Evil game, and it's the one everyone fucking hates, but because we played it co-op, it was so much better. It was just a laugh, and once we know what we were doing, we beat that thing on Pro. We got the platinum on that thing, and I would never have considered doing that.
Did you beat it with a Move controller?
We did beat it with Move controllers.
I rest my case.
As well, we did it twice. Once with regular hands.
I don't like this game, but look, a Sony accessory. Then I'll plug away.
I will have you that game controlled a lot better than you would expect with a Move controller. We really enjoyed that.
I've heard so, yeah.
It's actually alright, and we did all the DLCs.
Mind you, they say that about the Wii version of Resident Evil 4, and I don't know if that translated into the PlayStation Move. Did they do a Move
version? They did, yeah, they did a Move version. They did every version you can think of Resident Evil 4. If you can think of it, they've done it. So
Capcom Skyrim.
Yeah. Announcing Resident Evil 4 for Guitar Hero controllers.
So was this the point where we saw Justin Roiland's Trover Saves the Universe?
No, we saw a man fail to play the trumpet, and then we saw that.
Right, okay.
Jesus wept.
You said make notes. Listen, that's all my notes.
Rhubarb, lemon, and milk botanical pear cider. I can't even say that.
Mint, not milk, but close. You were very close.
I said mint. I didn't say milk.
It sounded like milk.
Sekiro. Ginger.
So Roy.
So, I've not seen Rick and Morty, but I heard a lot of people saying this guy does one voice and it's always the same, and it's the same here. And I saw a lot of negativity about it. I didn't think there was enough here to know what there was to be negative about.
I can see where
Paddy
it was.
on into VR. That job simulator is apparently very good. By the same lad.
Let's move around. No, it's not. You're thinking of Accounting Plus.
Am I?
Yeah, not Job Simulator.
Yeah, I am.
No, I like Rick and Morty. I don't like the fan base, and I don't like the kind of the meme culture that surrounds it. But I genuinely quite like the show. It's it's funny. I think it's quite well written, and I've been through the whole thing a couple of times, and it's one of those shows that I think you get more out of when you watch it a couple of times. Like, you kind of see stuff you didn't see before, and some of the jokes hit a bit better. I didn't know what to make of this. It just kind of felt like it was a Rick and Morty game, but it's not. But it's exactly the same style and exactly the same humour. And the doing the voices, it's the doing the cable voices. This is happening, I guess. Sure, Gress. That's literally how that bit goes. I didn't know when the guy sat in the bathtub was playing the game. I wasn't sure if that was the actual game, if that was just bullshit. So I was, look at this shit, look at this fucking thing. Like, is that the actual game, or is it not? Like, I wasn't sure if the pink guy running around jumping was the game or not.
Exactly.
I don't know what to make of it.
It was a reveal of no substance, I guess. It gave you an idea of the tone of it, I suppose. But yeah. And it's in VR, so you're definitely going to play it.
Of course I am. The ice cracks further. It's very thin.
Jack Sparrow.
Kingdom Hearts 3, which I've written for the second time in my notes, feeling very clever about myself.
Finally, some new footage, but mostly the same footage.
There's pirates in it now.
Pirates
All the
of
pirates
Caribbean,
you remember from that film
a bit
you like.
more Toy Story, I think, as well, and a few other bits and bobs.
Still came off really weird. Still came off with no sound effects. Still, the voice acting was terrible. And this is where they announced that all-in-one.
Yeah,
bullshit
limited
pack,
edition PS4 Pro, I think. And yeah, Kingdom Hearts Trilogy, and they definitely said only on PS4. So, despite the fact it would arguably make more sense on Xbox, this is the only place you're going to get the trilogy.
Well, I mean, it skipped a whole generation, didn't it? So there's probably a whole bunch of people that haven't got an ability to play those games still. And I suppose there were the PS3 remasters, weren't there? But again, people don't have their PS3s plugged in.
For sure, yeah. I'm not saying it doesn't make sense here. It's just it makes Kingdom Hearts 3 on Xbox seem quite weird because no one who's only ever owned Xboxes has ever played those games. So, but yeah. A nice exclusive for them to have because it's going to keep a lot of people on PlayStation for Kingdom Hearts, I would assume.
And that's going to make money. Like, there's no question. That game's going to make a lot of money. There's a lot of...
Is it going to make its money back, though?
All the way to the back.
How could it at this point? There's a lot of weirdos that are going to buy this.
Is it going to make enough money to make up for the embarrassment of how long it's taken to come out?
Laura said this again when we watched it again. Like, it's too late now. She just doesn't care.
Comes out 4 days after Resident Evil 2 Remake.
Well, who gives a fuck then? Get in the bin, Kingdom Farts. You're done.
Well played, and enough said about that. Paddy, it's your boy up next.
The Screaming Celery.
Do it.
The celery was a bit screamy in the middle, and then it stopped
Was it
screaming.
another one of those?
Notes, man.
Christ.
Notes.
Christ.
It's time. It's time to find out kind of what Death Stranding is a bit, kind of, maybe.
It is not.
Almost.
It is not.
Sort of, maybe a little bit.
You lie, sir. You
There's
lie.
some game, maybe, that looked like it might have been being controlled by a human. Maybe not. I don't know. But it started off.
Oh, I think there
with
was
a
gameplay in there.
2000s.
Yeah, definitely.
It started off with an early 2000s Sony advert with the baby bum mooning you, and then giving you a thumbs up, and then you kind of felt like it was going to go PS2, like that was just a PS2 advert at the start, which I really enjoyed. Yeah, I'm very excited, and I don't know why. Like,
did you see the Peter Molyneux tweet that came back to light again?
If you've got a baby that powers your torch,
bizarre.
you have to shake the baby. He's going to get some money for that. Maybe he was Kojima the whole time. So, I've written a lot of notes about this, but like, I kind of don't really
do it. I want all of them. Feed me, Ginger.
I've got the extinction factor. What does that fucking mean? that was just like it's one of those games. I think Kojima's got one of those things where if you know what they're talking about, it's absolutely fine. But to the casual observer, what the hell are they on about?
Yeah, well, I'm fine with kind of science fiction people using terms that they would use in everyday life.
Oh, it's fine.
I
just want to know
I'm not
what
going
it is.
like, oh, the extinction thing. Oh, you mean the thing that does this, that does this? No, please, no. I'm fine with strange terms.
Yeah,
and,
but I want to know
that's
what it
part of
is
the
now.
charm to
It's
me.
upsetting me that I don't know what it's about.
10 things that explain it on YouTube. You just have a billion of those.
Thanks, YouTube. Fucking end law videos, 2018. Fucking hell. Is there any bit of YouTube more boring? Right. He seems to be a delivery man of sorts, carrying boxes and boxes on bits of strings, and sometimes human-shaped packages, and sometimes less boxes. There was a varying supply of things he had on his back. It wasn't just a set backpack. There was different stuff.
Absolutely. Yeah, he's definitely carrying stuff. So
you'd be disappointed if you thought he was bringing a man and it turned out to be a lamp and a load of like groceries.
Yeah.
He just put it in a strange shape.
So I didn't make a note of Norman Reedus' character's called Sam. I didn't make a note of his surname, but when I saw Porter on his uniform,
Sam Porter something else.
Bridges.
I thought Porter was his surname, but obviously it's not. It's his job title, I guess.
Yeah.
I thought
Like seriously, that's what he's doing. So yeah.
And he walked over several bridges.
Fair enough.
There we go.
There was that one that was the ladder overneath the gap, and he was carrying maybe 30 boxes. And I saw someone on Twitter put that with the caption, "When you want to get all the shopping in one go," which I thought was really cool.
Just see Laddersmith Gilligan on the other side. Going, in a new place.
Damn you, Ducks!
I'm in. I found my in.
Yay!
And he's not
I
dead.
thought the world he walked around in, it looked like two things to me. It looks like Scotland and Mars.
Yeah, it almost Dear Esther-esque look to the wild kind of hilly countryside, yeah.
Outer Hebridish.
Yeah.
Is that accurate?
So,
do you live in Scotland, James?
No, not anymore.
Oh, okay. Do you know what? I wanted to ask last time when I did something that looked like Scotland. What was it? What game was it? I can't remember now.
Probably Forza Horizon 4, yeah.
Forza, yeah. Like, is that what Scotland looks like? Is that what Mars looks like, James? I enjoyed the solitude of it. Like, there seemed to be like a couple of people, and you kind of just walk quietly around by yourself. Would that get boring? Maybe. But it
Do you think that they were just showing off the engine more than kind of the depth
I think so.
The stories and stuff? Because I quite like the fact that when he was walking with the kind of mummified guy in his rucksack, that when he sort of stumbled a little, he kind of listed to the side, and even when he got like the big the big sort of box on the back, and he got the sort of space helmet on, when he was turning, there was increased kind of momentum.
Yes,
within that swing, and I like that a lot. Yeah.
Definitely.
So I've seen some wild speculation already that obviously if the invisible creatures that are around you touch you, you can age. So the person he's transporting isn't actually necessarily dead at all. They're wrapped up to stop themselves being touched, and he's carrying them to like literally transporting them. Yeah, that could be something that's really cool in terms of just, the idea of who this person is, and he is risking his own life in order to transport others who are paying him to do so, and he's essentially a mule for people or for their possessions, like the baby,
or it's someone that's immune to it, maybe, or I don't know, maybe possibly sterilization. It's Last of Us again. There we go.
Yeah, there's
Last of Us.
all
Turns out Death Stranding is The Last of Us.
All sorts of like little bits in this trailer and the previous ones that kind of indicate stuff. So, one of the other characters, I think. Is it Lea Seydoux? Is the actress who played the character who was talking to him, and there's different levels of detection where Sam can sense the monsters around him or invisible creatures around him but can't see them, and she can see them. So I don't know whether that suggests that there's different types of people or whether you can level up to get to the point where you could see them, but
she has got that kind of little grub that she eats as well, which seems to affect sort of the possibly the time stream and the things that she can see.
Yeah.
Oh, speaking of the grub, a couple of things in the trailer were incredibly gross. Like, I almost said the shower scene then. I mean, there was a gratuitous shower scene. We got to see his Norman Reedus. Hey! Did anyone else wince when he pulled his toenail off?
Self-surgery, yeah, that looks good.
Good God. That was like, ooh, Norman, no. Please don't, Norman. Norman, put it away. Or Sam. Norman, stop it. Christ, like, Laura noticed something that I didn't later on. You know when the handprints turn up?
Yeah.
Which now seem to be the handprints of these invisible creatures that make things age. Like, the way I saw that was that the water rushing in was because, like, time was advancing in that zone and the mud was turning, the soil was turning to slush.
Interesting, yeah.
But, I don't know if anyone else noticed this, around where handprints were, not everywhere, but sometimes, the plants would start growing.
Right.
Yeah, it was when he was exiting it towards the outside that you saw the plants.
But they were like on every handprint, you'd just see like sprigs kind of just propping up, just very, very subtle. Because I didn't notice them the first time. I was trying to work out what was going on with the goo, so I wasn't really looking. But Laura's like, plants are growing, and they're not. Yes, they are. Watch. I'm like, oh fuck, yeah, they are. Yeah. What do you think about the baby radar?
So, is the baby an extra
James.
life? Is the baby a clone that can be aged up, given that time obviously is a thing? So if you die, the baby is your replacement or something? Or is the baby something you're transporting? There's so many questions, and just rampant speculation in any direction is perfectly valid at this point, because we just don't know enough.
And the baby seems to be in him because of the whole, the initial thing where it turns around and moons and then gives a thumbs up. It looks like it's inside a person, which then pulls out to show him. It's like, well, it's in him. But then he plugs in like a cable into maybe his bum, and then the baby appears from the tube. Like that tube was not thick enough for that baby.
No.
And then on the front of the thing, like, boom, boom, play attention.
But then in previous trailers, we've seen that plugging that cable into the vessel, the kind of jar that the baby's in, for want of a better word. The notion that Guillermo del Toro had the baby and then sent it over to Norman Reedus in the previous trailers. So there's that. Maybe not going down the tube, but plugging the tube in does something to affect where that baby is and what it's doing. But
that hurt my brain.
Yeah,
all that stuff.
That's the whole idea, isn't it? Is we don't know what's going on. I've written down a note here, and I can't remember for the life of me what it meant. But regeneration, but the environment suffers if you die. Like.
So there was a shot about when he was in the warehouse and it's like they're all coming around that like, can you like are you going to stay there? Like no, I've got to move. Well, be careful, because if you die you can come back, but there'll be some sort of shock that impacts the world, I guess, maybe.
Okay.
Maybe you're like, if one of them gets you and you're certain, or maybe if he's special, or if the baby thing he's got is special, maybe that triggers some sort of reaction that
the world's
bombs
actually
out an area or something. It's all mysterious, isn't it?
So the world's actually part of a I guess, like a symbiotic organism with the player, or maybe all the people in the world, where if certain things happen, the world actually changes, not because of an impact that your death had, like other games, like, plenty of other games have actions you take affect the world, but in this case, there's actually a push and pull between you and the world. Interesting stuff, but at the moment, it's just time's a bit timey-wimey, and invisible stuff's a bit weirdy, and... Invisible
rope boys is what I've written. I noticed that, and I remember back to one of the initial interviews about this game, where Kojima was saying that it's about the first thing they looked at when they were designing this was just a rope, and it's like the things like you tie to yourself and the links that you make between people, and that's why there's all this sort of cables and rope sort of symbolism. Like when he's walking along in the desert, the Marzi looking bit, and he's got two boxes behind him just on ropes. That's when that kind of went, oh yeah, rope. It just twigged it, and I kind of watched that with that in my mind the whole time. And when you see the invisible boys, they've all got like a massive trail of like rope or tendril or tail or something. It's a bit hard to see, but like coming out of them. And I'm trying to sort of piece together what that could mean, but haven't come up with it yet, because I am but a foolish boy with a low intelligence score.
I think there's a degree of with the child as well, maybe something to do with the umbilical, and the connection of life to life.
Yeah.
And the rope in that case. I mean, even with the plugging in of the bit sort of into him, and the connection with the child to sense more. And maybe it's been said before that obviously not particularly with babies, but young children, because they're not as conditioned to the world as we are, that they can see things beyond the pale of like human life. I've heard tales of children having imaginary friends that historically tie into people that used to live in that house, or this. And I'm wondering if that's part of the connection, that it's seeing beyond the pale of what we consider reality, and seeing to the grim, to people that have died, seen to different times, and that umbilical is the tie from innocent life through to experienced, I guess.
To pull back a different angle on that, then, is that sort of similar to sort of the Lovecraft thing of there's stuff everywhere but you can't see it because your brain won't let you see it.
Yeah, like the Bloodborne.
Whereas
sort of,
kids
sort of
got no filters and can just see shit. Interesting. I did thought the bug crunching was weird as well. Well, before we move on, I thought that was horrible. She seemed to enjoy it.
I'm a fan of kind of old school science fiction books, and I think this connects to why I love Control, and that degree of the things in the universe that the human mind can't comprehend, but if you push at them, you can kind of figure them out. And I really like that sort of stuff in the books that I read, even now. But it used to fascinate me as a kid, and also getting like big, hardback, massive kind of painted science fiction books as well of people wandering across planets, and like Chris Foss sort of paintings and stuff. Even though I don't know much about the true substance behind the game, the look of it, and the way that people talk, the way that they interact, it scratches a certain itch in my head that makes me like super interested.
Yep.
Like I say, I'm very sold on the world, and I'm intrigued to see the substance the proper substance and gameplay that they put into it. But but also a big thing for me was seeing Lindsay Wagner in there. On Jeff Keighley's YouTube show, sat Kojima, his translator, and Lindsay Wagner, and Kojima was glowing about the actress, and she just sat there like absolutely beaming. And on the one hand, it's well known that as ladies get older, that less roles are offered to them anyway. But when Kojima was talking about that Bionic Woman was his favourite show when he was a kid, and it had a profound effect on him, that Jamie Summers had bionic abilities, but rather than using her talents for violence, she used them for other means, for stealth, peace, intelligence, and that really stuck with him. Wagner mentioned that this was her first video game, and that she really didn't know sort of the lingo in this world at all. But when she was brought in by Kojima, he sat there for 3.5 hours and explained almost everything about the game. And she seemed really taken with him, both as an auteur and someone who'd definitely taken such a detailed influence from her work, and was treating her with such awe and grace and respect. It was really, really lovely to see. And also I wondered, in the same way as the Metal Gear Solid 5 soundtrack sort of turned people onto lots of songs that they might not have heard, I'm wondering if a lot of people who are seeing Lindsay Wagner maybe for the first time are then going to sort of try and track down some of this sort of stuff, because as Bionic Woman, she won an Emmy back in the day as well. So yeah, I just thought it was a really, really lovely bookend, and I sort of sat there on the couch, like looking at Kojima, looking at like Lindsay Wagner, looking at Kojima, and just absolutely beaming, and I got a little bit teary-eyed over it. It was lovely.
Not to take the wrong thing away from that, but you say you sat down for 3.5 hours and explained it. That seems a bit short for Kojima.
Wow.
We're getting his equivalent of a short story this time, then, I guess.
Yeah, maybe.
But no, I am that person who didn't know who that was. I assumed she was a famous, because like the name comes up, like, oh, that's something I should clearly know. But then, I looked it up, and obviously Bionic Woman. But, yeah, I didn't know who she was. So that all missed me, I've got to say. But I'm sure she'll do a great job.
And that was the thing at the end which made me go, what? And
do you know
then,
what my favourite bit was?
The reveal was wonderful.
There were two things that I saw we haven't touched on yet that I'd like to have a quick chat about. That weird glitchy techno umbrella.
It was good.
What is going on with that? I need to understand what it is. And it was like kind of fading out of vision a bit, and it was going blurry, but nothing else was.
Probably hides her from the creatures, or it's a
I'm sure
it
does.
But
time. Why is it so fucking art? I love it.
Yeah, it's great.
Goodness me. And there was a moment about halfway through where he's got his hands down somewhere, like you can see his arms and stuff, and his skin starts to kind of go a bit pink, like to flush. And the flush kind of moves up his sort of body, up to his neck. Up to his face.
Yeah, that was really creepy. I loved it.
It's creepy and visually beautiful, but
super.
Yeah, and all that sort of stuff just makes me think, what is going on? I need to understand what is going on in this game. I need to know it. And I think Kojima, more than I think most developers, nothing I can think of top of the head, but God, that man can cut a trailer.
Is this PS5?
Don't think so.
I think this is PS5 launch
I think
time.
it could be, yeah.
Let's hope it doesn't go Kingdom Hearts, eh? See you on the PS6. Bye.
So,
James, what do you think?
2?
Did you like it?
What?
James, did you like Death Stranding?
Yeah,
were you enjoying it?
I'm a big Metal Gear fan, and I love the fact that we've seen 3 fairly substantial trailers to this game, and I still don't really know what's going on, and yet so much speculation that actually adds to my interest, because it speaks to the possibilities of these threads that he's left kind of dangling from the trailers. My only concern is that if we are talking a 2020 PlayStation 5 game, that's a long time to keep eking this out in a way. But then I didn't necessarily think he could do it again with a trailer, and I think he did with this. So, yeah, I
suppose he is starting from zero as of 2016 was it? It's not like they had the game in development for a few years.
No, absolutely.
He had to start his own studio, so this is going to take some time, isn't it?
Absolutely.
I'm kind of the opinion with this, when it's done, and I'm enjoying sort of these little peeks into the world, but there's not a frustration of a a Final Fantasy remake where it's is this still not here yet? Is this still nothing? It's one of those where I know it'll be there every year, and I just really enjoy it for what it is and the questions that it sort of brings up.
We'll see how we feel in 2 years' time.
And I do like the fact that if this was trailers for the next Metal Gear game, there would be stuff you could pick apart from it based on what you know of the series, and yet this time round it's all brand spanking new, like the little
no baggage.
It's completely malleable in terms of what it is, and we are getting these just little teases of stuff that is true about this world, but not all of the information around it to kind of glom onto. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Yeah, I absolutely want him to take his time. As I say, my only concern is the longer that goes on, the more people are going to start projecting onto it what they want, and no man's skying it, seeing it too far out. You could get to that stage, but
Last Guardian, same thing.
Yeah, he keeps on. He keeps on doing enough with the trailers, I think, to keep my interest and not ever make me think I'm tired of this. I just don't know how I'll feel if we're another 2 E3s down the line, another 2 PlayStation experiences down the line. Am I still going to feel the same way? And I hope I do. I hope he manages to do exactly that.
Neo 2.
Cool.
A trailer that showed
a demon.
A demon that looked like it was from Neo, a guy that looked like he was from Neo and didn't necessarily look like the original protagonist, William.
It looked a bit more magic, didn't it, to me?
There's a character creator in this one.
Right, okay.
Oh.
So they stole From's
that
character
was
creator.
that was my reaction
which
as well,
is why in Sekiro you're not playing as you're playing as a fixed character because Neo often nicked their character creator, I guess.
So you say you could play Sekiro, or you could go on a character creator and play Sephiroth.
What?
No, I'm trying to say Sekiro wrong different ways.
All right, let's move on. Hear your bad opinions about.
Let's move on. The piano was badly tuned.
I am excited for Neo 2. I really enjoyed the original. I thought it was different enough from Souls. I thought it was a nice cross between sort of Souls and Bloodborne. It was very dancey. It was very technical. I enjoyed the different stances. There was a lot of weapons in there.
Yeah.
But when I got my differential with the weapons, I enjoyed it. I felt that I was constantly learning with it. Enjoyed kicking people off the side of mountains. Or stabbing them with spears off the side of mountains. I thought it had even though on the face of it looked like Souls with Geralt sort of in the middle of it, I enjoyed it for what it was, a huge deal. I didn't finish it. I got stuck on a boss, but I think I got swayed towards other games and sort of left it alone a bit. But it's one of those where I still feel I've got unfinished business with it, and Neo 2 will be day one for me.
So I played it, enjoyed it a lot. Felt a lot of what you did. It started off as a kind of Soulsy style game, and I ended up feeling more and more as I went through more and more of the Ninja Gaiden lineage, obviously being a Team Ninja game. As I got used to the weapons of my choice, and ended up, because I was doing side missions as they became available and clearing all of that, I ended up absolutely wrecking shop with my Kusarigama. It wasn't even fair. Some of these monsters were giant hulking, just towering enemies that should have been difficult, and I was just laughing in my face while twirling a chain at them.
I think they gave really good reasons to keep going through the levels as well. I enjoyed the little revisions, or maybe you were going through it backwards, or it was set at night and there were different creatures.
Yeah, tougher enemies and
it just
stuff,
seemed
bosses,
fresh rather than having to kind of grind out the same area again and again and again.
Hard disagree. Sure. Very hard disagree. Tremendous hard disagree. I felt like that happened almost from minute one for me. I felt like that game saying, "Oh, go and play it a few more times. There's some other stuff in there. Go on, do it again. Here's another 18 swords to get rid of one by one.
But we've
here's another
kind
13
of
pairs of fucking shoes.
That you like to go on a straight line towards the end of the game, and you don't like to do any of that other stuff.
I don't.
Whereas I pitch a tent, and I become probably like James, super overpowered. And then just
No. I think you've painted me in a very unfair light there. I think I like to do my side stuff, but I like to do my side stuff once and then get on with it. Whereas you like to camp out for 3 weeks at the first level.
Hey there, Roxanne. You don't have to put on the rhubarb, lemon, and mint potato. I can't say it.
There you go, in your face.
Pear cider light.
Yeah, I wanted to. I did some of the side missions on Neo as well. It's like, here's 1,000 systems, and we're not going to properly explain any of them. Here's a menu. What? Do you want to break the weapon down? Well, you could actually turn it into something else, or you could do this, or you could do that with it. Like, just let me sell the fucking thing. It did have a
loot problem, but I think
it's a tremendously bad loot problem.
The systems had complexity, but I didn't feel they were overwhelming at all. If you want to use a high stance or a low stance or whatever weapon you want to get used to. I got a really good weapon early on and sort of used that with a spear for quite a long time in the game, and then started experimenting with stances at a certain point, and didn't find it overwhelming. I found it a refreshing take on kind of the standard Souls combat, and at the time I was playing it, like, I preferred it to Bloodborne with that sort of that step on from what Souls was.
You're mad. You're a madman. You're a madman.
I think the loot system, in my opinion, needed some refining. I felt there was an awful lot of different things you could do, and it wasn't really clear whether I should just wait to pick up a better weapon, or I should be upgrading or modifying the current weapons I had. But I actually found very quickly that it didn't actually matter that much. If I had a weapon that was really, really good, I could upgrade it to bring it up to, the current highest level of a weapon I had. If I preferred, I could just keep using it and pick up a better one later, and just get rid of a bunch of the other stuff. Yeah, just ditch it.
I think the thing I found was because I didn't gel with the game as much as like you guys clearly did. Like I didn't enjoy the combat. I found it to be a bit too punishing, and I think the weapon I'd picked maybe I wasn't that good with. But I quite enjoyed the spear, and it just wasn't working. But like none of the other weapons felt good. Like I wanted to use the spear, and I kind of felt like I was a little bit hampered. Maybe that was because I just didn't get the combat system as much. I couldn't do the key pulsing very well. And then you add all that kind of 13 different things you can do with every sword you pick up on top of that, and I'm like, do you know what? This ain't for me. This is too much. I'm done.
I think
it's not worth all that to get to more of the game. It's not worth it for me.
It brought me back to a very much a kind of Demon Souls feel for me, and that was one of my big points of clicking with it. I found that there was a huge challenge that I didn't think was overwhelming, but was enough to kind of be holding my breath as I progressed in it. And you know, they were super committed to DLC, and God bless them for that, because they really chucked out some well received DLC as well in that season pass. Take note, Dark Souls 3.
Yeah, I think the only thing for me is I played about 80 hours of Neo. I saw the trailer for this. Obviously, very little information about it, no date, just letting us know that it's on the way. I am slightly concerned about how quickly it feels like it's coming out, which is possibly unfair, because I'm sure by the time it comes out it'll be a healthy amount of time since the previous one. My initial reaction was I'm not sure if I'm ready to get excited about Neo again just yet. And there's no date. This is probably not coming out anytime this year. It may well not be well into next year, and they just wanted to float out there, we are making another one. I just didn't get that immediate, oh cool, I get to play another one of these. It was kind of I'm really excited for other games and not feeling it for Neo as much as I thought I would be. I don't know why.
They're going to chuck out another alpha and beta, aren't they, to sort of see what people
hopefully, because
the changes
I played, I can't remember which of the kind of pre-release sessions, but it was a beta of some kind, and it intrigued me enough to say, right, I've played an hour of this, I'll wait for the game now. I hope I get to hear more about it, and I'm sure we'll see it at next E3 before it's released, and get some more information about what it is they're doing. And there's absolutely improvements to be made, I think, in terms of how the loot works and level design, and maybe some of the structure of going mission to mission, so that it doesn't feel for people like Paddy that you have to do as much redoing missions and variations of missions in order to.
I found the missions I found the levels quite bland as well. I honestly found the levels I played quite bland. I didn't enjoy them at all. Just felt like another burning village.
So I guess
maybe I didn't get far enough to see more of the variety. Maybe that's on me, but like it just felt like, here's another burning village. Oh, this one's at night. Like it missed completely. More like Neope. Thanks.
I thought there were highs and lows as far as some of the levels go. There was plenty of variety there for me, but I think some of them, it was, especially because you're going back to some of them again, the second time through a level I hadn't enjoyed versus the second time through a level I had enjoyed, there was a massive disparity there between doing each of those. But yeah, interested to hear more about it, and glad that Koei Tecmo and Team Ninja have a kind of franchise on their hands, given how well Neo was received by a lot of people, but it did seem to miss the mark for quite.
I presume this one's going to be published by Sony as well again.
Well, at least we've got choice in our samurai games now, haven't we?
We do.
We do have plenty of it, yeah.
If you like your game,
more like Sandwich Eye.
Oh,
Sandwich Eye.
If there were 4 more samurai games, we'd have our joke on our hands.
Now, I was going to go into the next game, but I presume you've written down something about a crab that's also a boomerang that's in a hang glider or something.
A piano that was badly tuned.
So, Spider-Man, what did you make of that, seeing as you were the surprising super naysayer in the preview episode, to a point where I was actually shocked.
Yeah, they've closed the show with Spider-Man again. Fucking why? It looks fine. It looks okay. The animation's very nice, and I'm sure it's going to be fun to play. It is not a show closer, and I cannot believe they have done it twice in a row now. When you could have used, I don't know, what else have we got? There's like 3 other games. You could have finished on Death Stranding and had that be the big crescendo. You could have finished on Tsushima and had that be the end. You could have shown off Control and they'd be like, look at this cool weird thing. Like, yeah, oh, that's great. What a good ending. But you finish on fucking...
Mind you, to be fair, they could have showed us more of Days Gone.
That is a fair point. That is a
it
fair
could have been
comment.
worse.
I'll give you that one. You can have that. A point conceded. But, like, it's just Spider-Man. It's just Spider-Man. And that's...
Hang on, The Last of Us is just The Last of Us, and yet they opened with that. And by the way, I never, for as much as I naysayed about that game and how much I didn't like it, I never doubted that it should be a show opener. And the amount of positivity around Spider-Man, albeit not from yourself, surely you must see that there. I mean, last year that was a lot of people's game of the show. This year it's getting a lot of good buzz. Surely,
yeah, huge amounts of plaudits from people that have played it. Yeah,
here's the difference: is because I've played like 10 Spider-Man games that look and play a bit like that. Like, I'm struggling to see, oh, they've put the good swinging back in. They do that every few years. They put the good swinging back in every now and again. Like, it just looked like another Spider-Man game, admittedly a much prettier one, and one with a bit more going on, with like the prison stuff. That looked cool, fine. And
does your love of Insomniac not factor into maybe giving this?
It really
sort of
doesn't, though.
Rope
is the thing. It really doesn't. Like, it. Insomniac could have developed it, but I can't see them in it. You could have told me that to pick a studio out of your head.
Beanox.
Yeah, Beanox. Traveller's Tales. You could have told me Traveller's Tales are making this. I'm like, oh, cool. Not Telltale, because their engine isn't good enough. But, like, any developer you could have said was making this, and I'd have gone, oh, alright, cool. Like, it doesn't scream Insomniac from the hills like their other games do. And maybe there's more of it in there. Maybe there's more weird stuff you could do with your webs. Like, oh, this web shoots a disco ball. Shit, that was the only one I could think of. But, like, the whole point with, your Ratchet and Clank guns, there was some of that in Resistance on the PS3. The guns there were a bit weird. They could do different, odd, weird stuff. Whereas this looks like you're doing Spider-Man stuff, lovely Spider-Man stuff. Ooh, lots of swinging, lots of like web stuff and catching people before they fall off and kicking dudes back in their cell. The Spider-Man stuff was good Spider-Man stuff. Don't get me wrong, but I think, and my opinion hasn't changed in the preview show. The only reason this is getting this much like screen time is because it's an exclusive. If this was multi-platform, this would not be getting the time of day. This would be middle of the show, 5 minutes. Getting on with your life, something else here, probably Days Gone, and that wouldn't have been better. But it's just I want to like it, but I just can't be bothered. It looks like lovely, and the animation's nice, and it's like the suit rippling as he swings, and he sounds like a proper Spider-Man. And it's not being set at the start, so we haven't got to deal with Uncle Ben dying for the 4,000th time. I don't know. I'm not asked about it. I'm not asked, and I'm upset at myself for not being asked. Because again, on paper, oh look, this is for you, isn't it? This has got the things you like. It's got Spider-Man. It's got the good swinging. It's got what looks like a reasonably good punching engine. It looks very pretty. It's got some nice touches to the established villains. Like Electro hasn't got a mask anymore, but the scar on his face, Laura pointed this out, the scar on his face looks like Electro's mask.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, that was really clever. Just doesn't look any different other than being a bit prettier than the last ones. Maybe, and truly, I am, as the villain in the game, it's right, I am negative man, it me.
Now, I was underwhelmed with what I saw, to be honest, but I kind of dug a bit deeper to see what happened with the previews. It really did look, on the face of it, like the Arkham games with the combat, but Spider-Man. There was lots of that floaty, balletic combat, which on the one hand suits Spider-Man, but even Assassin's Creed has kind of moved past. But yeah, the hands-on previews had been glowing in the way that God of War's were. Folks absolutely going ballistic about the stuff they played, the open world stuff they did, the things that they ignored. Word has it that it is the best superhero game ever made from people that have played it, and that one of those games where people, after they finish playing it, were really kind of eager to get back on with it. There was a fella on Easy Allies who was like, played it, really loved it, put 3 beers in me, came back, still loved it. So regarding the combat, it was said that if Arkham is all about blocking, Spider-Man is all about attacking, that there's a grace and fluidity to the fights which were compared to Sunset Overdrive, with the feeling that continual successful balletic movements could be improved upon. And rather than just sort of pressing your random buttons, it's the constant sort of changing and fluidity that's kind of almost like the dance to the fight, which is one of those things that you kind of want to push yourself on to carry on improving with. There seems to be a lot of variation with regards to how problems are tackled. One instance sort of mentioned going through a city, this sort of group of thuds. One ran towards a car, broke in it and drove off, and then Spider went in pursuit. There was the feeling that if the gang was secured early on, that wouldn't happen. Another journo saw the gang already moving towards the car, and Spidey sort of jumped on it and pulled the driver out through the window before it could kind of get going. That there is quite a lot of variance, and there's a lot going on in that city that you can choose to do or not do. And as I said in the preview, Dan Slott's a really excellent writer. So whilst the stuff that I saw didn't move me, digging in under the surface to find the details of the stuff that those who had a hand on and were really enthusiastic about it enjoyed, kind of made me at least appreciate, like, especially with the fighting stuff, it gave me like more of almost like a sense of like a rock band of you kind of getting used to, right, I can do this, I can bounce up that wall, I can do that, I can secure you with that, and this constant 1 2 1 2, and that seems interesting to me. That seems very Insomniac to me, that it isn't just a sort of stock Arkham-like combat, that there is a choice in the webs that you use. Yeah,
it's not just swing and punch and web, and that's it. It looked like, particularly from some of the post-show stuff, there was a massive move set that you have at your disposal, and obviously some of that will be unlocked as you upgrade your suit and as you go through the game and stuff. But I mean, even just in the original stuff with like trap webs and being able to web guys to walls to immobilize them, and to be able to kind of rapid fire shoot webs at individuals, or to at one point like pull a door off a car and throw that at someone. And some of that will be stuff that is just kind of contextual environmental stuff that will happen kind of automatically. But it looked like there was in the same way that the Arkham games added more as you went through towards Arkham Knight, and they added more gadgets, but they also added just more fluidity and more kind of varied animations to the fighting as well, whilst keeping kind of the core. Something like that, but feels like Spider-Man combat, as you said, as opposed to Batman combat, which is very different in terms of this agility and in terms of the fluidity of it and the acrobatics and stuff. So I played a bit of Spider-Man 2, and then any other Spider-Man game that was mentioned through, I guess they were all Activision, I think they were anyway. But lots through that kind of run of what probably is like 12, 13, 14 years until this point, I looked at what those looked like, what the ideas were, and who the developers were, and they did not interest me to try at all, because I didn't think the ideas, even the one where you were playing as like 5 different Spider-Men from all different corners of the Spider-Verse, they never grabbed my attention in the way that having this developer backed by Marvel Game Studio, who are getting involved not just in licensing Marvel characters, but also working with the developers, and in this case quite closely apparently, in terms of the stories you can tell, in terms of the characters that would be good to bring in terms of backing up like a major developer who if if they were doing any other game, I'd be interested to see that as well. But they seem really enthusiastic about working on Spider-Man and the possibilities. And last year's trailer with the kind of Sony cinematic sequence didn't necessarily interest me that much, but immediately the response came, no, this is one cinematic sequence of a handful that are in the game, and we thought it would just be a nice showcase. But then we got to see more of how the game will play in the post-show this time. And it absolutely interests me quite greatly. I think Electro looks cool. Kind of interesting that the characters from the raft that he's loosing all seem to be Spider-Man villains. The raft holds a lot of other villains, but obviously they want to keep it Spider-Man focused at the moment. But the possibility of it being the raft and having other characters or villains, or even just nods to that sort of stuff, like they did in the Arkham games, with showing that universe is there. The fact that we've got a Sinister Six and that Mr. Negative appears to be part of it, but alluded to a sixth member that we don't know who they are, and seems to be in charge. I thought when Spider-Man was swinging through all Electro's sort of lightning bolts crackling everywhere, that looked like a kind of on-rail sequence, but it looked spectacular. Sorry, apologies. But it did. I mean, it looked like it was using the PlayStation 4 to the kind of extent, graphically and in terms of particle effects, and just the I guess HDR will be ridiculous in that kind of sequence where you've got the night sky with just vivid yellow lightning coming across it. Seeing some of the bad guys that are involved, but also tying it back to is it Mr. Negative or Negative Man? I forget.
I think it's Negative Man, but I'm not sure.
Tying it back to him, and clearly all these characters have not just beef, but like a personal relationship to Spider-Man in terms of background, history with him, and then someone arriving at the end who, I mean, odds on for who's in charge of the Sinister Six, I guess, could be Doc Ock or Goblin. I think both have been part of the Sinister Six at one point or other.
No, I thought I heard a web sound as that went to black.
Yeah.
I thought I heard a web sound. I was thinking that could be Ben Reilly. The spider start. Let's do clone shit.
So
yeah.
I did wonder whether because it's not clear from what Spider-Man says whether it's someone who's come to help him or someone who's come to finish him off, basically.
Well, the other guys look quite happy with the person that had turned up, so I think it would probably be the bad guy. Yeah.
There is a connection in the trailer to Spider-Man 2099 as well, which made me kind of
I didn't notice
stop
that.
backflipping across the room. And I really like Miguel O'Hara, so I'm hoping that's not just a little Easter egg there.
Yeah, I'm hoping they go all out on celebrating Spider-Man and really going to town. I mean, that said, I don't want them to blow their entire load, because I'd like to think this could be something that they run with.
I will state right now, I absolutely love that costume.
Yeah,
I love it. I love it so much. I think it's iconic for the game, but I just love the white in it, and also the little grips underneath his feet. And
no, I thought that looked.
And I know there are various other ones that you can get as pre-order bonuses, and
they've got loads
things,
in the game as well. Yeah, I mean,
but I really, really love it.
Yeah,
and I think Alex Ross has done the cover for the game as well.
Oh, cool.
Give me the Bagman costume, you cowards. Fantastic Four uniform with a paper bag on its head. Give me that.
Yeah,
come on, Insomniac.
I thought this, including the post show, I thought this was about what I expected to see, and teased enough of what I want to see. And yeah, I'm absolutely in on this game on 7th of September, I think, which is a week before Shadow of the Tomb Raider. Interestingly,
will you become the Spider-Man?
Become the Spider Raider. It's weird. But yeah, I thought this looked great. I absolutely get if I'd played every Spider-Man game up to this point and was kind of hoping for something that looked, vastly different. But
that's what it is. I've played enough that I'm not asked.
Yeah.
So that's pretty a good description of where I am with it. Thank you
Yeah.
for that.
But then all of the word of mouth from people who have played or seen this played is so incredibly positive, beyond the reaction to the trailers that we've seen, that I in spite of myself, I can't help but hope that it really does do something special in the way that an Arkham Asylum did for Batman, which is stupid because those games aren't 10 a penny. They come along very rarely. But yeah, there we go.
There are a couple of things that weren't mentioned in the show which have sort of come to light afterwards, and I think that they would have made really good things to talk about on the stage. Today it came out that a range is coming out called PlayStation Classics, a group of phenomenal games, which is going to be $19.99 each, or £15.99 over here. It's June 28th, and those games are Bloodborne, Drive Club, Infamous Second Son, Killzone Shadowfall, Little Big Planet 3, Ratchet and Clank, The Last of Us, Uncharted 4, Battlefield 4, Doom, Project Cars, Street Fighter 5, Yakuza Kiwami, Yakuza 0, Metal Gear Solid 5, and in Europe, Batman Arkham Knight and Middle-earth Shadow of Mordor. That, to me, is a fantastic range of games at a crazy
Good
cheap
set.
price.
Yeah,
And that, to me, would have been really good at the show. And they're also saying that PlayStation Now is going to be offering a download mode for PS4 games.
I would
That's
say
really good.
I think
mention it in the show.
Missed an opportunity as well. I agree. Mention it in the fucking show. Like I was yelling at Microsoft the whole time. They should do it as well. Mention this shit in the show. I think they've missed an opportunity with the Classics range to bring back the Platinum branding. I think that's, for me, would have been a no-brainer. With the trophies being, you get a Platinum trophy now, and the games used to be get it when it's on Platinum. When I was friggin' 12. Platinum games were how I bought my games, and not the company that make Bayonetta. Like, I would save up and I would wait until it had gone silver, and then I'd know I could afford it.
Yeah.
Because £40 was a lot of money for a 12-year-old in, 1995.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I love my old Platinum series, and I thought it was such a strong branding. Like, it looked very different on the shelf. Like, oh yeah, brilliant. Like, it's cheap now. They've missed such a trick there with the Platinum thing, but maybe for them, Platinum now means a trophy, and it's not the same branding.
I think that's exactly why. Is Platinum Trophy is now something very significant for Sony marketing, but also
But you could put
Platinum,
a picture of the trophy on the box. I suppose no, Platinum Games, that's a
Platinum
point.
Games
Yeah,
is a big problem because Classics, I think, makes sense, but I get the point. That was always their branding for Xbox Essentials was Microsoft, is that right? I can't remember what it was. Yeah.
Nothing has ever been as good as Platinum. None of those titles have ever been as good as Platinum.
I agree, but
I think
can
that's
see
a
why
phenomenal range of games.
Yeah,
oh, great, yeah, absolutely.
And worth really kind of having that screen where they're on and just going, this game, because it's literally like bang, 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 bang. It's like phenomenal games at a really cheap price. And I mean, personally, even seeing like Yakuza Kiwami and Yakuza 0 on there is crazy.
Yeah,
and the audience would have reacted to that. And I just think it makes at a point where Sony kind of, especially with this conference, seem like they're happy to coast for the rest of the generation. To me, it seems like if you've not got a PlayStation yet, or you've not got any of these brilliant games that we've had, here's a ton of them, and they're really cheap. I think that's a really big selling point and something to be celebrated, personally.
Yeah, absolutely. At the very least, in the pre-show and the main show, definitely. That would have been an announcement that would be cool for that kind of pre-show type atmosphere as well, to say, hey, so here's something really cool we're doing. If you really don't want to put it in your main show, which the way that Sony did their main show, I get them not wanting to mention that. I don't necessarily agree that they shouldn't have, but I get that might be their opinion of the situation. But get someone like a Ryan Clements who's enthusiastic and people look to in the same way that they do Holly as well on PlayStation Access. Someone that people associate with PlayStation but trust and like their enthusiasm, get them to talk about these games and say, hey, isn't it cool that we've got this classics lineup that is just a collection of a really varied collection as well. That's a strength for Sony to point to. Here's games that, not all of them, but most of them you can only play on PS4. They are hallmarks of what PlayStation gaming is, and 16 quid or 20 euros or $20, and that's now the price for these games.
Yeah. Get yourself a Geo Corsi or someone to get out, and he'd have been great at that.
For sure. Yeah.
Can you imagine if they'd use this as their segue between people moving between rooms and just running through those games and just saying and you also were making the first Last of Us available at a really cheap price. So if you've yet to play it and you want to play it again, here it is for just $19.99, and now we're taking you back to the sequel and another. You've got sort of like something that's quite cool that lots of people would notice, and then you could sort of segue it back into the excitement for the second game.
I was a bit disappointed as well. Again, something they could have done in the interim bits between. They did that thing that Sony always do, where last year they spent ages talking about a thing. Last year was VR, for instance. There was quite a lot of that last year. This year, barely a mention.
Yeah.
Barely a mention. Like Wonder Book before it, cast off to the realm of not caring aboutness. Like, I was expecting something. Like they mentioned obviously Tetris Effect in the
pre-show and the main show.
Called?
But it was weird because
there was the Squanch thing,
as part of the
Rick and Morty
part
thing,
of the Days of Play thing.
Yeah.
A part of the Days of the Play, they'd reduced the VR sort of headset.
Talk about
there
that.
There was some really exactly super talk about that. And then glue on, the new VR experiences, which are still coming thick and fast. But part of it almost seems like we've still got these in the warehouse. We need to get rid of them. Don't talk about it. And again, for me, this is something that is uniquely PS4. It's an experience that you can't get anywhere else on console. It's to be celebrated. You've got new stuff coming out. You've got a phenomenal bundle with the headset and
Wipeout and Resi. I don't
know if it was. Yeah.
There was different ones though. You could sub in GT Sport if you wanted to. I think there was another one. I can't remember what it was now. But
that front and centre, it's supposed to show why, even if you are going to kind of coast things out for the rest of the generation, celebrate what you do that's better than the competition, that's different to the competition. If somebody hasn't stepped up to either the console or the VR or those games or whatever, it's a great way of doing it. And again, it's much more affordable for people to get into that stuff now than ever. And we exist on social media and we see all of this sort of stuff on YouTube, on Twitter, advertised all the time. There might be people that are watching this afterwards that have no idea about the things that we see all the time because they're sort of force fed us. And I think it's worth celebrating. Be proud of what you've done. Be proud of where you're going, and really kind of show that off.
And think about how many more they could sell if they made a point of it. I mean, look, I heard that deal and then I bought one. From going the pre-show, going not really that asked about it, to I now have one in my front room looking 100%. At me funny. Because I'm not allowed to play with it yet. But all the point, I bought one based on the fact they've put the price out at a point where it's ridiculous not to. Yeah. It's like, I'm interested now. It's got good stuff with it. I know I'm going to enjoy it. Oh, fuck, go on then. And how many more eyes you could have got that into? This is usually the point in the show, midway in the show, where you say, oh, by the way, we've got a new price drop or a new model coming out, or, they always say, here's where you can play our games from the last couple of years, but a lot cheaper.
Yeah.
This is where you announce your price drop or your new model or your PlayStation 4S Mini, whatever you want to call it, or VR's got a price drop forever now. Enjoy.
I find this Sony very frustrating because they're not celebrating what's there and what they've got. And obviously, not long after we saw the Fortnite aspect kick in with a statement followed up that seemed like a Blink guy. Who did you get to write the response? Oh, we shoved it under the door of Jim Ryan's shed.
But I mean, talking of VR as well, like, okay, they'd done the countdown to E3 and they'd had Tetris Effect on there, so they only need to mention those in the pre-show and the main show. They didn't obviously feel the need to give them a showcase during the actual on-stage show. But Japan Studio and From Software are working on a VR game where you play as an invisible fairy.
Jesus Christ,
And
yes.
that was
And
in
it
the
looks
post-show.
amazing.
And it looks incredible. And you play as an invisible fairy. How is that not something really cool to just show off?
There are
Weird
certain
and
places
different.
that you can go, and a cat will stand in your way and block your way forward. And the stuff in the previews of that just said, like, it all seems kind of quirky, but quite nice at this point. And you know that it's not going to stay that way. Yeah, again, it's something that needs celebrating. Also, something I found out completely by accident the other day, which would tie into the price of the VR headset and the push on that front, is that there's an app that you can get for the VR whereby you can watch the World Cup and you can essentially be in the stadium. So you're not locked to the camera positions. You can sit there as if you're in the stadium. You can look around. You can zoom in. You can do whatever you want. The World Cup's on.
Yeah, one
Again,
would think
you've
like
got,
a
you've
matter
got,
of days before the start of the World Cup, that would be the sort of thing to mention.
Have a go
You've
at
got
this.
a price drop on your helmet. You've got all these sort of amazing games that are coming. It blows my mind that, because there's so much there, just screams out and goes like, celebrate this. You've got a price drop. I don't know. I want a better Sony than this.
They've got 20 different flavours of cider on the shelf, but they're only electing to drink 4 of them. Yeah, as the Sony pony of this show, this was a frustrating show for me. Like, I wanted to see more, and I think that the just weird pacing problem at the start, where so much attention was given to The Last of Us, and I understand they want to make a big deal of it, but that just killed. Just like, you're hot for it, you're excited. I was excited. I'd seen Last of Us 2, like, there's the actual game, it's running, and then it's Sid Schumann for a while. Like,
and I really believe there was ways to do that without destroying the pacing. As I say,
100%.
If you want to have 2 different venues, siphon off some of the crowd into one, and then allow them to watch the rest of all the gameplay reveals on the screen in that venue, but move us over to a new venue for the rest of it, or do something along those lines to keep the pace. Because
have the venues really close, like next door, so you just go through the doors, you're in the next room. No muss, no fuss. Like, have it as a multi-part experience room that you walk through or something. But
which, I mean, given that apparently the idea was they did this setup to make it a better show for those watching at home on the stream, I can tell them it wasn't a better show for that. It was.
I think that they'll hear that, though.
Far worse.
I think that they'll hear that. Like, there's been so much backlash to it this year that they've. At least they're trying something. Like, at least they're trying different. And it didn't hit. It did not hit this year. And as you know, like you say, they are coasting a little bit. And I'd like them to just show a bit more off in the shows. Not much. I mean, the show only runs an hour, doesn't it? And a good 10 minutes of that was taken up by the gap between the middle. Like, give it another half an hour. Let the things breathe. We'll get a few more bits in there. Show off some of the stuff we've been talking about that we wanted to see that you didn't see. An hour and a half. I could live with an hour and a half. I think that'd be a good show. I'd be worth staying up till 2 for. But as it stands at this point, I stayed up till I think 4 a.m. in the end. I was watching the follow-up show on the thing, and I kind of felt like I'd wasted my time a little bit. I thought, why didn't I just wait till tomorrow for this? Like, it's part of tradition to stay up and watch Sony now. But I'm like, do I need to at this point now? Like, next year, are they going to come and blow my socks off? Probably, because it'll be the one I choose not to watch live, because that's just how my life works. But yeah, just a show of missed opportunities. You nailed it right at the start. Missed opportunities, stupid pacing. I think the slavish devotion and just like worship they're giving on Last of Us is like the next big thing. Yes, it looks great, but it is not worth sabotaging the pace of the whole show for one game. It was not worth it, and it didn't fucking work.
What another way that I think they could have done it is, if they wanted to do that kind of thing, like do what they say, really focus on 4 games. I could have seen a situation where we spent 10 minutes on each one of those 4 games in the way that we did for Last of Us. Maybe just in that venue, make it a shorter, tighter, really focused show where it's bang, 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 there's your 4, and now go to Sid Schumann and Ryan or Holly or whoever and get them excited about all the other stuff that we've talked about being excited about, and pepper that.
Yeah, be hype men for the rest of the show.
And pepper that with your Neos and your all your other stuff, and make it a secondary show, because here's your showcase for the big 4. That's what Sony are pinning their rest of their generation on. Here's your 4. And then people who are passionate about PlayStation to get excited and sell us on the other stuff, because stuff like VR, stuff like Price Drop, stuff like the Classics range would fit better in that if they don't feel that in terms of a really kind of blowout showcase. They don't work on that stage. Well, that's fine. Also pull your Rick and Morty whatever and pull Neo and put that into a separate show as well, and allow the 4 games to stand on their own as a kind of event showpiece that you can control the pacing of better and make it flow better, and just completely do something different from the usual show or what Microsoft are doing with their kind of big, game show.
I think that's a really good idea. They almost need 2 separate shows at this point.
I think they could do it because they've got enough going on with their kind of big 4 first party stuff. Get people there for that, and then wow people afterwards with like catch-ups and news and what's going on at Sony, and a bit more like a community style show. I think that will
allow them to do their big production, which they are. Again, I'm really happy that they're trying stuff. Like it's not just man comes out and reads auto cue, different man comes out and reads auto cue. Like it's not that. And I think we all disagree on how well we thought Sean Layden did, but that when he was on, like, he came across for me as quite genuine, as quite interested in the stuff, and quite warm, I guess, to the crowd. Like he was there, and he wanted to be there. He was proud of. You could see he was proud of what they put together, and obviously it didn't quite hit, but you could see that he wanted it to be, something people would remember and something people would stand out from the weekend, and it does stand out, albeit for the wrong reasons, but it has stood out, and it has in the past. As we mentioned before, the God of War intro music one with the lady singing "Daughter," like everyone was talking about that shit for weeks.
Yeah.
Like, and it was a proper stage show. Like, it was unique, and it was theirs, and it had its own identity. Much like Ubisoft is, you go there and it's the mental show. Like, Sony is the stage, like the production. Yeah. Whereas and like Microsoft, for example, have got the market cornered on the, not to sound dismissive, but the standard big E3 show. Like, they're very good at that.
They're very traditional in terms of their E3 show, I think, and they're doing it as well as anyone ever has, and better than anyone currently is. But again, you know what you're getting from that show. It's Phil coming out, and it's 50 games, and here we go.
Exclusive.
And strap yourself in for like an hour and 45 minutes or whatever that show was. It was long, but it was long, but it didn't feel that long. But in contrast to the shows that were long and halfway through, you got the here's what's happening with the business. And I was serious when I said Sony used to pull out graphs and pie charts. They did.
Yeah, I remember.
They did. They pulled numbers, and people were like, "Hang on, is this a board meeting we've suddenly wandered into?" And to their credit, they've changed that, and I think you're right. I think they will know themselves without getting the feedback. They will know themselves that this didn't work this year, and that they didn't do the games a disservice, because I think everyone's still really buzzed about the games, the big 4, and the other stuff they showed. Like Resident Evil 2 Remake was a really smart thing to show, and yeah, I think they just need to work on that presentation, and they had some ideas, and it either didn't come together the way they wanted, or they didn't quite nail it, and I think they'll sort that out next year and do something again, probably fantastic and different, hopefully, because
it'll be on a blimp.
Yeah, well, I mean, it could be anything, couldn't it? I mean, they have the opportunity and the option with probably 3 of their big 4 not necessarily being out by E3 next year to do something similar and build something around, the tent poles and really put on a show. But it really didn't work for me.
Plus, year. I hear Blink Guy's looking for work, so They've got a showrunner.
Yeah, he can ruin that show like nobody else. But no, plenty of stuff here to enjoy, and really exciting time because Sony are still putting out absolute bangers every 6 months. It feels like probably, and Microsoft are kind of hungry to catch up with that, but it's going to take some time. And in the meantime, Sony get to have occasional missteps like the way they did this show because, in September Spider-Man comes out next year. Alright, Days Gone, but also, we're looking forward to Ghosts of Tsushima and Last of Us Part 2, which, no arguing with how successful those are going to be.
Of course.
CJ, thoughts on the show?
I thought, on the face of it, it was a weak show, but when I sort of dug in and sort of tried to find out more about the games that were there, that became more of an eye opener, and I must admit I've enjoyed this conversation that we've had tonight far more than the show itself. It's kind of expanded on what was there. It's we've had our own discussions and disagreements, but also revelations amidst that, and I do think Sony need to be mindful of what is coming up from both Microsoft and Nintendo. So, but not crazy about the show itself, but had fun finding out more from people that had their hands on and proper enjoyed this natter.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there's no denying the quality of the games. It's just, there seems to be something at E3 this year, which apparently has been awful for people who actually bought tickets to attend the show, where companies just aren't working out the best way to showcase their games, which is odd because for years it's felt like they've got better and better at that stuff. And it feels like it's faltered a bit.